Yo, how's it going, folks? Welcome to episode 149 of the Simpa Life Podcast. Hope you're keeping well. Hope you've had a good couple of weeks at this point. I've really wanted to get this conversation, so I've kind of been a bit loose with today's guest and, let us, move it around the diary a bit. But we're finally here. We're finally going to have this conversation. So I enjoyed my extra week off, so I can't really blame them. So I'm kind of grateful. So I enjoyed some time off. I'm about to go into the woods for the solstice. I don't actually know when this is going to be released today, which is before the solstice or whatever day you're listening to this on. I'm going to the woods to enjoy a fire and some psychedelics and some time alone because I think my brain needs a little bit of peace and quiet, to be honest, folks. Even though I have just had the aforementioned week off, but I filled that with many other things, including DIY and getting out in this beautiful little world of ours. Anyway, I'm not going to waffle on too long. There's a few bits of news that I'm going to reference, but quite a lot of the German stuff that I wanted to talk about, I'm going to leave to next week or the week after. I can't remember what order this is coming out in, but we do have a German guest coming on, so that I'm not just going to be sat here flapping my gums from this side of the North Sea. We can actually get some eyes and ears on the ground and have a good conversation about what is, what isn't, and what could be and what can't be, really. But anyway, let's jump into today's guest, who is appearing for, I don't know, 5th, 6th, 7th, 10th time. I swear he's here more than I am. Today's guest, who is the founder of the UK-based cannabis consultant agency Hemp Hound, the host of Hemp Hound TV, and our unofficial CBD novel food specialist. They are Cefyn Jones. How are you doing, brother?
Was geht up, alles klar? I'm just getting you a little bit kind of warmed up for German there, like, because it's an interesting language. Do you know any German at all?
Uh, I don't, other than probably things that are in my head from like the war movies being on when my grandparents would look after me or whatever when I'm younger. So it's probably just like acclimate, what's not acclimate, what am I trying to say here? Like just enunciating like stop and like war rhetoric or whatever. So nothing I would want to repeat in 2024, I don't think. But no, I don't. I've learned enough Spanish or rather I can refresh my Spanish enough just before Cannabis. I do want to get out to Mary Jane, which has obviously just been on this year, so I'll try and get out next year, although looking at it, the numbers are a bit insane. I don't think I'd actually get in the building, but that would incentivize me then to look at a bit of, basic conversational German, you know what I mean? But right now, other than Guten Tag, I think I know the difference between Guten Tag, good morning, and Guten Morgen, and Guten
Abend?
That one, yeah. And there you go. And then you can break up your day. And I could probably find a few things from year 7 German in the back of my head, but my pronunciations would be terrible.
I lived there for 10 years and I loved it. But for about 6 of those years, the only German that I knew was hello, goodbye, and all that, and how to ask for 10 bread rolls, like Zehn Brötchen bitte. And then it wasn't until after living in 2 kind of ghetto style British army camps and going to Gütersloh. That's when I kind of started hanging around with German people and kind of understanding a little bit more about the culture. And it's actually where I first started kind of embracing the good herb as well when I was pretending to be a rapper all those years ago. But I'll look forward to that meeting because there has been some interesting comments about the recent show there, the Mary Jane show, and certainly I think some of the things that you will be touching on will be of interest for people. Certainly when it comes to the uncertainties that surround semi-synthetic cannabinoids.
There was a lot of differing stories of kind of what happened. I mean, the general consensus that I'm hearing from several places is 20 ambulances were called on day 1 as a consequence of semi-synthetics and full synthetic cannabinoids, but also mushroom compounds. It's the same even with the people that got in versus the people that didn't. I don't think the German government, for all they were like, no, we don't want tourism. No, we don't want to create this international market. I think they're either unbelievably naive or they're lying. But one thing that I do appreciate that came out in the press recently, I've got it written down, but I cannot pronounce that. Gelsenkirchen. It's a region in Germany. It's their police force. One of their spokesmen came out and said that they would prefer the England fans during the, I think it was Slovakia game, to be consuming cannabis rather than drinking alcohol. When they were pressed on it further, the spokesperson said, well, when you get a bunch of people together and they drink alcohol, typically leads to violence. Whereas I think the quote for cannabis was, whereas when people get together and consume cannabis, it's generally a chill vibe. He literally said chill vibe.
Yeah, there's a good argument for that. I mean, they did the same in Portugal just before or just around the time that they decriminalized everything. And they were saying, look, come here, watch the football, smoke a blunt. Yeah. But the thing is, like, Germany has got a really, really different drinking culture to the UK, and I can give you a really like crazy example here, right? I used to go to this place called Bexkeller, and they would have literally a bit of a stump of wood, right, in the middle of the bar. All right, on the side you will have boxes with nails in, and you'd have a hammer, claw hammer.
Oh, that.
Right? Yeah, and you tap it in, so it's just standing, one arm behind your back, and whoever gets it down in the least amount of times wins, and whoever doesn't obviously buys the next round. The thing is, could you imagine the chaos that would come from having that game in UK pubs? I mean, it's a lot different. I mean, thing is, they drink more beer than us. But it seems that we, you know, and they drink more refined beers because they have the beer purity law. Whereas here, you know, you've got Stella Artois, Carlins.
Yeah, 100%. But you can see the difference of the Germans are quite forthright. You piss off your mate's going to fucking tell you, and he's going to tell you why. And he's going to be quite efficient and to the point, and you're going to move forward from that. British, you offended me 17 years ago. I'm still going to be your friend, but Jesus Christ, I'm going to hold it over you. Do you know what I mean? We're ridiculous. So then when we get drunk, we get drunk, and it just all comes out because we've never said we're so stiff upper lip and prim and proper, and we don't talk about that shit. That's why, like, the ecstasy revolution was so powerful. That's again why it's when you add that to Germans as well, like German techno music, Jesus Christ, and their MDMA and drug scene like that. I'm very interested to see how this liberal attitude morphs. I mean, obviously, the German elections, in terms of the European elections, I think the far right, or what is depicted as, so I suppose it's termed as the far right in the current Overton window. And I think they are pretty far right, if not out of the window at the minute, with the Deutschland, what the hell is this party called? Alternative for Deutschland, the ADF. No, whatever the... I can't get my words out today. Whatever the acronym is, that did. I'm not going to lie. That did throw me for a second. But no, leave him alone. He's fine. She's fine. They're fine.
Well, she's fine, and she goes quiet if I pick her up. Hold on a second. Come here.
Experiment with this.
Come here.
Silence the dog.
You're going to get a little bit of airtime on the Simpa show. Oh, there you go. And Spock.
2 for 1.
See, you're not barking now, are you? Bless you.
See, you just want attention.
Okay.
Just want attention. It's like, why are you talking to the camera? There's no one there. Talk to me. I'm right here.
No. There's a couple of dogs up the road. Whoever every time that they go off on one, she has to join in, and it's kind of hilarious because when she starts howling, she doesn't. She's kind of like she doesn't howl properly, and yeah, it's quite hilarious. But hey, this isn't why we're here, mate. To talk about the pooches.
We probably won't end up talking about European politics. I think the last kind of thing I wanted to add to that is it just made me think of a funny anecdote. Anyway, so to people, we will get onto the further German political conversation with a relevant guest in the weeks to come. Just to wrap this little Eurocentric part of the conversation up, I remember hearing an anecdote that was fucking hilarious. It was I think it's probably a reel or something, and it was a French guy rang into the French radio, and there's like a joke that they have of like having to figure out around when ordering a baguette which gender to put in the term for it. And so the guy was like, oh, so we're doing a call in, like, how do people get around this? What do you say? What do you do? What's people's preference? And this dude rang in and went, I just ordered 2 baguettes. Made me laugh.
Yeah, my apologies.
See, she finds it funny. There you go. At least somebody finds me funny. Say I'm performing at the wrong.
Hold on.
I need to do dog entertainment.
Let me just try and find the mute switch. Why I need to pick you up again?
Does she sit on your lap? Oh, she just fidget.
Oh well, she's a bit. She'll end up jumping off. Come here.
Because that's suicide for a pug.
And then of course
That's like two
Sprocket will be
stories.
like, "Oh yeah, but why am I not getting attention?" No,
Oh,
she might be quiet now.
he's in the background. He's
Yeah,
photobombing.
that's yeah, bless him. You know, he doesn't get much attention. No one's commented on how cute boy he is. Like, but yeah. So anyway, the world of cannabis.
Yeah, let's speak about weed. Let's speak about weed. Yes. Yeah. Where are we in the world of weed right now? I suppose, yeah, like I said, we'll cover the sort of German subjects with the guest in the coming weeks. I want to focus more in this conversation about sort of the nuance of regulation, what is kind of happening behind the scenes. Obviously, the continuation of your, well, it's approaching a good few year battle at this point. You're starting to clock the miles. But I do believe that I'm starting to see from the outside looking in some good progress. So if you wouldn't mind catching up sort of the audience that might not be aware of what I'm sort of talking about there, of what you've been up to with regard to sort of the FSA, Home Office, novel food regulations.
Right. First and foremost, I'm going to start off with this. If anyone wants to truly see the battle at play that involves cannabis and cannabinoids, you don't really need to look much further than what's happening with the CBD industry, because at the end of the day, with recreational use, we can kind of all get frustrated with people not asking questions, people not looking at potential tax returns through, as a result of legalization. We can all bang our heads up against the wall. But what we see in the novel foods arena, the CBD supplemental arena, well, that actually paints a more accurate picture of the UK's interests with cannabis and cannabinoids. Now, obviously, to update those who are here, novel foods is basically something that is all about either a new food and an old food and a new format, or a new food. And that is gone by a date, specifically May 1997. Now, in October 2018, the FSA submitted what's known as an Article 4 document with a determination on the novel status of CBD. And that was that it was indeed an old food in a new format. So from that point, the industry obviously a little bit jittery. We ploughed on until the 13th of February 2020, when we were provided with guidance and deadlines to follow as an industry. Now, what's interesting here is that the industry as a whole were told that you could only be part of this process if you were registering products that were on sale at that date or before, right? Any product that was intended to be marketed after that date would not be allowed on sale and would not be able to be available to the consumer until it had gone through the entire process. Now, have I got something wrong there, Coco? Shush, enough now. People have heard enough of you. So, basically, from that point, we were guided by the FSA. We were to consider other legislative requirements, such as the Misuse of Drugs Regulation 2001, specifically the 1 milligram rule, which is a pain, but it basically states that any product on the UK can have no more than 1 milligram per controlled cannabinoid, regardless of container size. This is very restricted, but actually it's been a mainstay for the industry, ensuring that is protected against attacks of sorts. But as the novel foods process went on, a few anomalies emerged. Companies were having products validated, and that was despite them not being in existence before 130220. We were also getting products that, as per UK legislation, were being validated despite the fact that they were drugs. And then we were kind of getting the muck around with extra kind of restrictions, such as advised daily intakes. And I'll be honest, the industry is not in a pretty place. But let me just kind of portray that pretty place, or not so pretty place as it was. When you look at the vast majority of the companies in the industry, they're playing ball. Right. But the FSA has recently authorized applications from two very, very interesting companies. Now, just to kind of give a dynamic on this, in novel foods, you effectively have three statuses. One is awaiting evidence. So you basically got half an application, but the FSA has accepted that you have something there and it will progress, subject to you having the right information. Then you have validation, which means that you have all the toxicology reports, the product data, everything like that, and it is ready to be submitted to the safety team for assessment. In this case, it's the Advisory Committee for Novel Foods and Processes, the ACNFP. And then you have authorization, which basically says that product has passed every hoop and it is ready to go on sale to the consumer. Now, authorization from the FSA, they recommend it to the health department, or the Department for Health and Social Care, which is an interesting one, considering that's actually run by Victoria Akins. But let's not go on to that one. But the two companies in question are Cannaray and Puris. Now, I'll start with Cannaray first. In July 2022, after the FSA had ignored actionable evidence to show that they had been validating products that did not exist on or before 130220, or were in fact more defined as controlled substances as per UK legislation, I basically went on this mission. And it was to highlight the FSA's mishandling of the novel foods process. In the original complaint, though, that I submitted, I highlighted Puris and Cannaray. Cannaray were interesting because on the week of 130220, I came across a post on their LinkedIn account. On there, they were like, oh, yeah, check out our products. They're awesome. To which someone actually jumped in and said, hi, just waiting for my samples. Can you let me know when they're coming, please? To which I saw someone from Cannaray say, we've got a warehouse issue. We'll hopefully get them in soon and get them sent out, right? But that's the week of 130220. So they've already indicated that there are issues. Further to that, if you were to go online, you will see that Cannaray officially launched on the 28th of February. Which is 15 days after the deadline. So, by essence, they should not have had products on the market, right? But here's the thing, right? The FSA are trying to confuse the phrases of on sale versus on market. So, in the lifetime of my complaint, they have turned around to them and said, they haven't got any products on sale. They keep on turning around saying, yeah, but they have products on the market, which they didn't. The FSA are lying, and I'm very comfortable in saying that 100%. I've got all the evidence I could throw at anyone should they be interested. But ultimately, over 2 years and several processes, I've tried to highlight that Cannaray were indeed being allowed into a process that they did not qualify for. Now, an interesting thing is that not so long ago, I submitted a series of Freedom of Information requests, specifically for files in relation to the investigation of my complaint. And the FSA has confirmed directly that Cannaray, by extension, did not qualify for the process that they've allowed them through. Only not long after that, Cannaray's application was authorized, right? So we got all of the people that helped build this industry, right, subject to rules. Those rules have been enforced as well. There have been products removed from the public list, which houses all of the CBD products going through the process. There have been products from there removed because sales on or before 130220 could not be verified. I have evidence to show that the FSA recognized that Cannaray couldn't do that, and yet they've given them a green pass. Mm-hmm. Now, that's dodgy as hell. right? Because despite that, and despite there being all the evidence under the sun, the FSA still refuses that by turning around and saying, oh, yeah, but they had products on the market. Now, for people who don't know, on sale is on sale. That's black and white. Mm-hmm. On the market, you have what's known as EU Regulation 178/2002, which defines when a product can be on sale. Right? Now, the two main points on this is that you have to prove your product to be safe and it cannot be mislabeled, right? So here's the thing. What the FSA also confirmed is that Cannaray were unable to verify their labels at all from that point. They provided invoices, presumably for sales, which they couldn't have managed, and yet they couldn't verify what products with the label that were sold. So to me, that's a lot of alarm bells ringing. But then we have purists, and I love purists. I say that sarcastically because we've heard of these issues with semi-synthetic cannabinoids in Germany briefly, and the thing is, there's always this kind of confusion because you have synthetic in its true sense, which is made by genetically altered yeast and streptococcus and whatnot. And it's a horrible, horrible process to create something that is allegedly a food, even though it's not even a close facsimile of CBD. Left-handed, right-handed molecules. Well worth checking out. I think it's called Shillery. With purists, now, the FSA has turned around and said that they too had products on the market on 130220. But what they don't seem to recognize is that Purist as a company launched in July 2020, and they couldn't have had products on the market because their very first product was actually put through a microbial test in November 2020. All right. So that's well past the deadline. And yet, the FSA has ultimately progressed that application to authorization. And, a lot of the industry are very, very concerned because it shows that not only are the FSA kind of, performing a lot of bits and pieces that are easily defined as double standards, the attention that the industry has as a whole versus the attention that's being given to Purist and Cannaray, it's very, very different. It's almost like, and I did say this 2 years ago when I initially started this journey, not Germany, that the FSA are effectively creating a cartel market. And that, I believe, has been realized by the authorization of those applications. And
sorry, are you alleging that public schoolboys would get together and conspire in offices with industry?
Hold on.
This is huge. This is unfucking heard of. Sorry.
You know I'm a public schoolboy, don't you? Sorry, private schoolboy.
Private, public? I don't know how we fucking describe it in this fucking country.
I don't know anymore, mate.
They call it, we have the paradox, isn't it? We call it public when it's private, but it's not. But in the state, we have state school, which is the school I went to, which is you pay your taxes at Ganzen, you go to school, get your bus, get home. And then you got your posh schools, the ones that Labour are on about adding this fucking VAT tax for in their manifesto. Whatever the nomenclature of it is, are you one of the ones that paid for school?
Yeah, well, I was lucky. Apparently, I got an academic bursary to go into a place called Gordon's where I learned the bagpipes, even though, I'm
glad to know in these institutions that you guys are learning things that are so crucial to the integral to the running of the country, like bagpipes.
Bagpipes, yeah. Come on, this country would be a lot better if everyone just accepted that. It's not a Marmite instrument. It's actually. I mean, I can play the rhubarb and custard mastered theme tune on the bagpipes. I mean, you know,
I mean, that's an accomplishment. I'll give you that.
I know. I don't know any other bagpiper who knows how to do it. So I don't, yeah, you know. But hey, we are digressing, mate. Not everyone who goes to a public school is a villain. Although, admittedly, I have met a few, and I wonder why my accent isn't as crisp and clear as theirs. And I wonder how it is that I wasn't able to make the right friends who progressed and said, "Hey, Kev, come and join our clique, mate." But then I was a bit of an outcast, maybe because I was playing bagpipes. Who knows?
Exactly that. It's a small knit group of conformity. It's conformity, and they conform amongst themselves. And it's this idea of a conspiracy of consensus rather than a conspiracy of language. They don't necessarily get together and go, "Oh, Bob, you go do this. Dave, you go do this. Mike, you do this. 20 years, I'll give you a ring, and we'll fucking do this." It just, their intentions are molded together, their trajectories are galvanized together, and do you know what I mean? It's an inevitability. And when it comes time for Mike to ring John, or it needs whatever John's specialty is, he rings John. Do you know what I mean? Oh, I went into school with John, and if not, John knows the guy, and then John makes his 5%, and John connects me with the guy, and he gets his 5%, and it's a job.
You got John's number, have you? Ping it over. I feel like I need to chat with him.
I think, like I said, I think that's forged quite early. I think that's, in my opinion, what those schools are for. They're not, they used to call them finishing schools, and you do like your 11 plus or whatever it was back in the day when you had like O levels before GCSEs, and now they're on a numbers. I think it is. I think you get a grade of 1 to 8 or something. I don't know how that works, but whatever. I'm showing my age here. But I think that's part of it, is to test in those waters how you deal with it, because the content of the education itself is different. As I always point out, you know, Eton is the one school in the UK that still teaches rhetoric, which is like the art of manipulation of language through like emotionality, through linguistical structure, syntax, etc. And you can hear it. Everyone goes, "Oh, he sounds like a politician." It's like, yeah, they went and learned the thing. And everyone that didn't get lucky enough to go and learn that thing emulates that thing because they want people to think they were of that thing. And so it's just, we gravitate towards each other. That's why I've ended up down in the gutter with me.
Oh,
oh
okay.
It's our intention, though. Our intention is that you may be a bit more capitalistically inclined than myself, but the idea of freedom and truth that we both hold dear to our hearts, I think, you know, if we, like I said, if we put in the different environments, we would naturally gravitate towards our own, as it were. And I think they just do the same. I don't know. It's one of those integral issues that is structural to classism that we've been trying to conceptually figure out for a good few centuries now. I'm not going to suddenly figure out on this fucking podcast, but it's just, yeah, that's why I guess I have this frustration towards private institutions like that, because it's like, wait, how come you can vote when you're in power to degrade the education of these people while getting a better education for yourselves to ensure that you'll never give those the education to overthrow you?
Well, no, I think you're right, mate. And you know, do we look at all of these people and think that there's a clique going on? Well, you know, something's along the way. I mean, certainly when it comes to novel foods, for example, there is clear evidence to suggest that it's being run in to benefit one company, and that is GW. Now, if you look at the lifetime of GW, which I'm sure you have, you'll see some questionable things. I mean, I didn't realize until the other day, but they launched on their first stock exchange in 2001, 3 years after they'd launched. But wasn't 2001 the year that they also got their R&D license? I mean,
it's so coincidental as well, isn't it? The misuse of drugs regulations, 2001, which was effectively created to allow scheduled drugs to be sold for profit, allowing them to get around POCA and the international interpretation of this. I mean,
no. The misuse of drugs regulation 2001 was created with the intention to allow the transportation of controlled substances to places where they would be analyzed. Now, that's convenient because from 2004 to 2018, the Home Office decided it was a good idea to send GW a shed load of cannabis just to test for CBD levels. And even though I've seen pictures, there was a guy called Dr. David Potter who was receiving all of these samples, right? And he's very good with a camera. Like some of his pictures have been used multiple times in press reports, and you're seeing Nepalese temple balls. You're seeing obviously a lot more than your odd eighth and quarter here or there, right? And yet, fast forward to 2018, GW effectively admitted in a newspaper article, I believe it was either The Independent or The Guardian, that when they get these samples, they only test 0.25 gram just to see what CBD's in there. A, why are they testing for CBD? And B, what do they do with the rest of that Nepalese temple ball and or other bits and pieces? I mean, you know, let alone the fact that every time all of these samples have gone out, they seem to be surrounded by key milestone events for GW, whether that be on a sales and promotional aspect or a regulatory effect that is benefiting them. I mean, you know, that's insane. But ultimately, when it comes to novel foods, their interests are the ones that are being protected. And, you know, Canara and Purist, when I say cartel market, they are the ones who are in the process because they are basically the ones who are happy to play ball with what's going on. And there's a clear indicator of that. Now, you might have heard that as recently as October last year, the FSA had a very, very public announcement that they didn't run past stakeholders in the hemp and CBD industry, but they did run past the likes of BBC, Telegraph, Cosmopolitan magazine, all of these things. And basically, the announcement was, we've looked at 3 lab reports, right, for synthetic and isolate-based CBD, right? Those lab reports have been combined and indicate that you guys should not take more than 10 milligram of CBD a day because your liver might explode. I mean, obviously, I'm slightly exaggerating there, but that's pretty much the premise of it. But the worst thing is, they've accepted that those lab reports come from synthetic and isolate-based extracts, but they're applying that ADI to full and broad spectrum products, whole plant products, which aren't refined to the point of isolate, certainly aren't as ghastly as synthetic cannabinoids. And well, it's there's a thing in food law, right, which I've been looking at, and it's called substitution. Right. And substitution in itself can lead to the diminishing of an authenticity of a food. Very big food crime.
Oh, this is a good example. So in Ireland, Subway for a while, the bread wasn't allowed to be called bread because when they analysed it, it's like in America, the American cheese, the square cheese, like we have it over here, and there's not the word cheese on it because it's not allowed legally to be called cheese. You may look at it and go, "Oh, that's cheese," but no, I didn't say it was cheese.
It's the same with chocolate over here, mate. Go to Germany, right? Our chocolate's not chocolate because it's got too much milk in there. And that's why a lot of squaddies, when they come out of the forces, they set up English shops up there because the Germans, they love our Lion bars and all of that because theirs are just a little bit too dark. But certainly when it comes to substitution in this essence, right? Certainly with synthetic CBD, for example, you're allowed to call that ultra pure, right? The FSA also allows CBD isolate to be defined as ultra pure. I'm very sorry, folks. Cocoa is a little like
it's not coming through much on this end. It is dropping out, and when I edit and crop out the sound, it should cut the most of it out. It's just a case of your flow, I guess, at this point.
Good. Okay, so this is where it comes to synthetic and isolate, right? Both of them can be defined as ultra pure. The FSA has a public list, which is to inform the public of what is available, what is going through the process. And yet they will not allow for a determination as in ultra pure synthetic CBD or ultra pure isolate based CBD. Like, you know, and that is a big concern because it diminishes the authenticity of plant derived isolate. Right. As does the ADI when you apply it to full and broad spectrum products that aren't made with isolate or synthetic extracts. That in itself is something that has been historic from the FSA since the start of novel foods, and that's very concerning. Because full and broad spectrum products aren't as refined as those products, right? Synthetic and isolate. Certainly, an ADI derived from them should be accepted by the toxicology reports that companies were told to supply. But no, we're having that all applied across the board. And when it comes to Puris and Canare, their authorization documents, right at the back, you have a reference index of all of the information that they've submitted to prove the safety of their products. But on both applications, the very first link is to the ADI announcement in October last year, which wasn't really part of their applications whatsoever. And we do hear that either that ADI isn't going to change at any time soon, which is absolutely crippling for the industry, right? And B, there is the likelihood, a very big possibility that companies, they paid a lot of money for toxicology data for their extract in their products. But it's likely that the FSA might say, don't worry about that. We'll just put Puris and Canare's like lab reports on top of yours. Take it or leave it.
Yeah.
And, it's a really shocking state of affairs in this industry at the moment. There's a head of novel foods who is so dismissive it borders on rude.
Before I'd like to go obviously further into the FSA, but I'm quite aware that for you and I, this is just it's not even a Tuesday, but it's an average day conversation. For some people, that is a lot of information, a lot of dates, a lot of data. To kind of go through. So I just wanted to kind of almost not rehab the same conversation, but summarize and simplify it.
The FSA are corrupt.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the major bullet point here, I think, folks. I mean, most people will get that from most of the things that we point at and go, yeah, because it's human nature and the late stage capitalism. People got to make that bank. You want your bag, you want to feed your family, you got to eat. I can't blame people for hustling. It's that whole expression of like, look, I don't blame piranhas for existing, but fuck me, I'm not swimming in that water. Do you know what I mean? It's the scorpion and the frog for anyone that whole thing.
You highlight a key issue there, mate, because you've been on your journey, I've been on my journey. We know this, that, and the other. Going back to what I was saying earlier about watching to see the government's true intention with cannabis and cannabinoids, right? Sometimes it's easier to be frustrated not knowing what's going on than it is to try and describe things that you do know that's going on. And certainly with novel foods, I mean, a lot of people might be thinking, well, it's CBD products. It's not it's full fat.
But I think what I wanted to circle back and surmise a bit and then go into is exactly that, and to show people why you aren't going to have your fucking homegrown THC, why we're not going to have full plant. It's language. It's what I've been sat here screaming for years, and I've been shouting at it every meeting, every stage, every article I write. It's all about the language, as you said there. They just no, you got it wrong, and then they gaslight you and go, no, what we meant was this, and you're like, well, no, these are the legalese defined terms. These are literally the words. Like I said, then just change up the script, and I've seen it. So many great people in the space just burnt out because they can't handle being gaslit like this. They can't handle just constantly feeling insane because it's every time you grasp at something, they go, oh, no. And then you grab another thing, and then they just keep switching and changing between it all. But I think, as you said, that what is happening with CBD links back to, as you said, it was GW Jazz these days. I don't know what they've actually formalized their trading name as at the minute.
It's GW. I'll tell you why in a second.
All right. So it goes back to them, as we've alluded to in previous episodes of this, that just what would be the perfect R&D? What's the perfect market research? Oh, we need to get 1,000 people together in a room. We have to get this product and all this. We have to, what if we just let it be, let it happen? And like you said, then they come along and we want to look at these samples and go, why are you looking at, it's just CBD. We'll just look at CBD. And then they get all these companies to do these toxicology reports. They go, oh yeah, it's for your safety though. and then none of them are used. They're getting the people this live data in action, and they're just accruing that data and just, yep, building it up, and then they come along, change the rules, and like you said, their preferential client comes through, and everyone else that killed themselves to build that industry, that were on the market stalls dealing with the bigotry and the ignorance of people going, CBD, that's cannabis, that's marijuana, and having to change that. That was won by the hearts and minds of people on the fucking high streets, all the CBD and fucking hemp companies. I don't like saying that word, but all you hemp companies out there, this is the one thing I will doff my cap. You motherfuckers went out there and you changed some minds of people that were like, oh, the leaf, oh my God. Granted, I feel you did it in the wrong way, and you may have gone, oh no, that's the hemp plant, and further demonized and vilified us, but you at least moved the needle forward. And I think we're now at a point where it's so interchangeable. People go, oh, CBD, or marijuana, medical cannabis, They just go, oh, when they sort it out. They're resigned to letting the same cabal of motherfuckers that have destroyed our culture, kept us under the boot for 70, 80 odd years, wherever we're approaching at this point, from being able to just have these conversations. And now the time is there. They're censoring us out of them. They're removing us from it. Like I said, they're making us feel insane, and they come in their business suit with all their money and all their clout and all their mates from school. They're like, oh, we can do this. Yes, logistics license. I know someone at the Home Office. I'll ring the FSA now. And it's like, you have all of that, but you haven't been in the trenches. You didn't fight the war. You haven't been scared of your door going off because of the plans you need to keep yourself going. You don't know what it is to be sat around sharing a joint with a bunch of people and somebody called roach rights. You know what I mean? You don't know our culture. You don't know fucking 420 and come along to it and pretend, but you don't know the struggle. You don't get to, I'm getting fired up, sorry, but you don't get to be that person. We need you, but fuck me, you need us more, because all you're doing is pissing your billions into the wind right now of R&D and trying to get to, oh, well, yeah, well, cannabis will be freely available, just not from the plant.
No, cannabis won't be available, mate. It'll be cannabinoids.
That's what I mean. Cannabinoids, not cannabis. Yeah, and I feel that's the end goal, is that as long as they can make sure I will be targeted for having plants in the house, no matter how medical it gets, no matter how legitimate, no matter how available and abundant it is on the high street, no matter how represented it is in culture, they'll still want to be able to target me for being self-sufficient. And that to me speaks to no matter how good they try and make that industry, it's predicated on the wrong direction. You liberate us first, then you build an industry. And most of us don't want to be part of your industry, so we'll leave you alone. But if you try and build this on us while we're still active, we're going to tear down the foundations of this bitch.
You got to breathe?
I'm breathing. I'm cool. We're fine. I'm sorry. I see, I haven't been up for 2 weeks. This is what happens. I don't talk for 2 weeks. And I'm like, let's burn it down. No, we're cool. I've got my rant out. That was quite concise.
No. Your rants have merits as well, as always, sir. I mean, you did kind of educate me a little bit there. What's this roach rights thing?
Oh, roach. So I was Northerners, quite impoverished. We went through a period of austerity, especially where things got a bit. So 4 or 5 dudes in a room. Only one guy's got maybe a bit of what we used to call tack, Swifty 750 bit of tack. Someone, we're going to bill up. All right. Someone's got tab rights. They put in the cigarette. If you haven't got your skins or roach or whatever, you're asking someone and they're like, oh, I've got a skin, and they've got skin rights. Somebody then goes, oh, I've got the roach, I've got roach. And it sets the order of the hierarchy of who gets past the joint. In good times, you pass to the left. Everybody rolls up as much as they can and everyone just smokes. But in bad times, the homies get together still and you craft it. And whoever's got the most puts the starts it, the others put in, and that's the hierarchy. So generally, skin beats roach. I don't know why. It just seems to be that way. I think because you can roach anything, really. But if you're premium roach, then you're up there. Some people even call grinder rights, but I would always be like, that's just disrespectful because I could break that up with my hands, sort of thing. It's like, that's lower down the hierarchy. This is different in different regions. But this is what I'm telling you. This is what I'm saying about the culture. It's a rich fucking tapestry of heritage. I've spent decades living, and they just want to come along and go, no, it's this, slap a leaf on it and be on the high street. I just want to see parlay between all of us to come together against this small cabal you speak of, because it's the same group of motherfuckers that have fucked everything for over a century. Arguably in this country, 1,000 fucking years. They're all Normans. That's getting really fucking into local bigotry.
Did they have roach rights back in the day?
I don't know. Maybe.
See, the only right that I feel that has been in my journeys is the right for anyone to get dissed if they pull out a rolling mat.
Wait, I have a close friend who's still rolling. I think you know who we probably think of the same person, and I do. I'm still joking about it, but it, it's difficult because there is obviously the hierarchy within our own little community, and I suppose it's just a friend. You wouldn't walk across a cannabis event to go and berate somebody for using a fucking cannabis. For using a mat, and I guess
I might walk by and kind of give them a critical
disapproval,
look.
like
yeah, no.
But again, this is done in the sense of development and growth. So I'm trying to think of the story that I saw not that long ago, and it was thinking of a lad Bible or something. I still get fed that shit on Facebook, fucking suggested, because Facebook is now fully just 7 ads, 1 post, 7 ads, 1 post. I'm not going to rant about Facebook because they did just fucking destroy the Durham club page the other day. I'm getting way off track. Where am I going with this? I was on
We started with rolling mat rights.
Oh yeah, so it's no. I saw this story of a guy who literally went and lost fucking like 7 stone, and it was his mate sent him, "You fat bastard," every day for like 2 months. It was just texting him, but he was his best friend. Granted, it wasn't like he wasn't bullying and berating him, but it was kind of like an agreed thing of like a motivator, and that's how it chose to work. And the guy, it helped him motivate. Do you know what I mean? We jibe each other in the way that we want to protect each other. We want to bring each other up, and men especially do that, especially from impoverished areas or lower class, in the sense of the economic class rather than the societal class, if that makes sense. We'll do, we'll jibe at each other in that way, but it's meant lovingly. It's meant to not bring you up. Yeah, you're still using your mat. Means put a couple of hours in, figure it out.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But it depends if that person then resides themselves to being, well, I choose to do it this way. I'm getting more accepting as I get older. I'm still, a bit of a diehard, let's fuck shit up, but you do you.
Yeah. It's easy to outgrow a rolling mat as well. If you use 2 king skins to make a doob, I haven't seen rolling mats that big.
I suppose in that sense, you would just, I was just in my head that, those old bamboo, like pull up curtains that you get that would roll up. It's just literally someone going,
That'll do. 7 king skins, right, off you go.
It's just giving me some nostalgia of rips, of like 3 of us trying to roll a joint with rips. Like a single fit thick rip, but like two hands, and be like, no, tuck, and then somebody like running in between and.
I had an identical experience in Germany, mate. I do, there's a couple of mates of mine, Torsten Hoffman and Mark Ondecker, and it was basically that long, tapped down to literally the length of my forearm, and it took us to, but it got so heavy, I thought I probably wouldn't smoke weed past that point, but yeah.
Yeah.
Where do you give it up?
I think there's just certain rites of passages, really, isn't there? Because I also remember like the first time that we had money to be like, nah, ounce in a day. Sitting here, me and my mate, and we're like, we're doing this. And it's when we used to still smoke like the favorite flavored blunts back in the day. We used to go down the marketplace, and it was, what was the offer? X amount for something. And you get like 5 blunts for, I don't know, £5, but the £1. No, the economy was better than that. Whatever it was, and we bought like 20 blunts, and basically just put all the weed in the blunts, and we sat and just fucking smoked it to like passing out sort of stages, and they're like, roll another. And it's just, this is the rite of passage. You have to get through that thing of, oh no, this is absurd. Let's not roll anything bigger than this now. We're just wasting weed. We're losing it. No, all right, now it's thickness and girth. All right, we'll roll the widest joint we can. And then you go through all these different phases.
Right. This is getting too much. Coco, enough. Don't make me look at you sternly like you was using a rolling mat. No. Oh, I don't know. Anyone want to buy a pug? I'm joking.
Need a picture of you on a t-shirt just pointing going, Uncle Kev says, ditch the mat.
Okay. I was thinking about setting up a side company called Puff Pug Productions. I even created a lovely little picture of a pug sitting around a field of plants, and it did look quite good. But obviously time is important, and Sprocket doesn't like sharing the stage. So I mean, he does give me the look of, I bet you've got a rolling mat, but whereas Coco, she's just got bulging eyes that slightly look out that way, but I can't see what she's looking at properly.
I've just had the It's one of the old episodes of The Simpsons where Mr. Burns is they're worried that he's going to get sued for like all the safety issues, and he's like, no, and he pulls like a sheet off a whiteboard or a notice board, and it's like, no, the real owner will. CM Canary Burns, and it's a canary that runs a business. And as you were talking there, I couldn't help but think, like, if you set the dog up as going to be liable, like, you just give for it. No, it was the dog, he did all of it.
Yeah, Sprocket owns everything. Check company's house, like 100% of the shares. Like
that's why GW haven't sued you yet. They're like, what do you mean it's a dog? We can't get a dog in court. What do you mean?
I don't know. There might be another reason why they haven't sued me.
You're right as well. Exactly. That's the thing. It's not really slander or liable if it's.
The funny thing is I've actually recently, after getting a final response from my actions against the FSA from the CEO of the FSA, I have gone onto LinkedIn and basically said yes, the FSA are corrupt, and. No response, no threat of legal action. And the thing is, I've even got an email from them which basically says, when we've got a response to this complaint sorted out, maybe we want to talk to our communications team to make sure that they'll be able to challenge anything that continues from here and back up the response to the complaint.
That's not how independent fucking inquiry into these things. But you can't be like, oh yeah, I know you've said this guy might be a rapist, but okay, we're going to check this data, but then we're going to go check with him how we can protect him. Then we'll come back and give you the info. Like, what? That's not how this shit works. I'm sorry. But...
Yeah, it's very funny you should say that. Although let's remove ourselves from the rapist.
Yeah, that was I jumped to an extreme thing. Yeah, I should have gone to a lesser crime.
It's because I'm going to mention a name, and certainly I don't want that person thinking that I'm tarring them with that kind of angle. All right, but. One of the big parts of my complaints against the FSA's handling of novel foods was, in fact, the actions of the manager of the novel foods department, a guy called Paul Tossell. Now, I'm sure Paul is a very, very nice guy outside of work, but in the novel foods, guys. As the manager of Novel Foods, you would think that he's got to sign off stuff. Equally, he dismissed actionable evidence from me twice that showed the issues with Puris and Canary, as mentioned earlier, by saying, if you've got evidence of wrongdoing, please send it in to us because we take that thing very seriously. And it's like, well, hold on a second. What have I just sent you? And,
That's like gaslighting.
Yeah, well, ultimately, when it came down to the initial investigation into my complaint against the FSA's handling of novel foods, I got the response, but I submitted that freedom of information request that I mentioned earlier, and I got all the files for the complaint investigation. Interestingly, I found out that the complaint wasn't investigated by the head of complaints, who identified himself as the person who would be investigating the complaint. It was actually an employment agency worker who the FSA will not name. Now, anyone who's got a legal brain in here, right, there's this thing called the circle of confidentiality. If I make a complaint, I'm entitled to know the names of the people who are investigating it. I'm entitled to be informed of resources or persons, whatever you want to call it, being brought into that process. And yet I never had any of that. But when it comes to Paul Tossell, right, this is interesting. I have an email that shows him getting the response to my complaint, even though he was specifically named in it for breaching the Civil Servants Code and dismissing actionable evidence. And it shows him providing an opinion to the response 2 weeks before I got it, because it had been sent to him to check for factual inaccuracies. And it's like, hold on. It's like you said. Like, I mentioned lots of things in there. I don't know who they might have actually approached to ensure that there were no inaccuracies. But as you say, he was named in the complaint. He shouldn't have been allowed to check over the response to that complaint before it's provided to me.
Like I said, the process itself is to negate them being able to then see it as being the named complainant or complainee, whichever way the language works there. But as you said, they shouldn't then be able to see it, but to then obfuscate that by stating that, oh, we're doing this to check accuracy that wouldn't fly in a legal structure because yeah, it's all right.
Yeah. Stop it. Oh, yeah. My apologies, mate. She's never been this bad.
That's all right. Just one spotlight.
Yeah, and now she's just cracking on. I'm hoping you can edit that bit out. Possibly the part where I get a bucket of water in a second and throw it on her. Hopefully that'll shut her up properly. No, I'm joking. But, I'll probably stick her in the bucket, turn her over,
little tortoise.
Just hear like little plastic barks.
Oh, bless her. Yeah, so even if that is the excuse that they've used, that cannot be excusable because it then gives them insight into what it gives them 2 weeks to prepare for that. It gives them prior information for a process that they should be made aware they are the named in a complaint as procedure, but to then be it stinks. As you say, it absolutely stinks. And the justification, it makes it less, in my opinion, sounding like, an honest mistake and entirely the language of obfuscation in a legal sense. To be able to go, no, that's what we were doing, ergo you can't prove that we were doing the other thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, it's up there now. I should have started this interview with the headphones on. Is it too late for me to put them on now?
No, not at all.
Oh, good. Because do you know we actually inherited El Pug from an owner who was close to her wit's end, and I feel I know why she was close to her wit's end now. She just can't help herself. Bless her.
They're a special breed, bless them.
Right, okay. I might be able to be a little bit more focused now.
Sweet. Can you hear me?
It's like you're in my head, mate.
Nice. Perfect. Yeah, so as you're saying, I nearly called him Tosser there because I can't Tossle, sorry. Freudian slip. Yeah, go back to where you were with that, please.
Yeah, I tell you what, in regards to the Tosser part, I do feel a little bit for Mr. Tossle because at the end of the day, I do, shall I say, I'm aware of people who have literally kind of turned around in frustration and said that. Equally, I suspect that he's not exactly a fan of his name kind of getting or being spelt or pronounced wrong, because I sent him an email and I accidentally missed one L out of the two that were there. And I got a response. It's like, there's two L's in Tossle. I'm like, well, I'm very sorry, Paul, but
that's a bit triggering. As somebody who's been called Simba for forever, like your reaction says a lot about you as a person. Like but fair play. I mean, it could have auto-corrected to Tosser.
No, it wasn't Tosser. It was Tossle with one L. I mean, at the end of the day, you're explaining yours. I mean, people can see how my name is spelled. It's Kevin, but I have Cefyn. You would be surprised over the years how many people think that there's an invisible W in my name. I've got Italians that call me Chev. Although I can't say nothing because Kirsty likes it, it's one of those things that it's easy to kind of pervert someone's name. Certainly when you're having some kind of relationship of sorts with them, as I have with Paul in me challenging him and his actions and whatnot through Novel Foods, but certainly when it comes to kind of name mispronunciations and the likes of I feel that he might get that more than we might know. Although, considering what you said and what I've just said here now, I would like to think that if he does watch this, actually he would know a certain level of sympathy in regards to that. But then that's where my
so.
sympathy ends, because at the end of the day, he shouldn't have been given any opportunity to look over the response to my complaint 2 weeks before I got it. I mean, he wasn't even identified in the circle of confidentiality. So he's been part of the investigation into him and the running of his department when he really shouldn't have been. It is crazy. I mean, that's not the worst thing, though. I mean, going back to the employment agency worker, right? Now, the name for that person has not been given, right? They've identified the agency that this person might have come from, and I actually rang them up, right? I said, if you guys happen to have someone signed in to work for the FSA over this time frame, and they literally went onto their database and they said there is nothing here that fits into the dynamic of the information that you've just requested, right? And this is an employment agency. They didn't even need to take me that far. At least if it was a government agency, they would have turned around and no, get lost, right? But if you've got an unidentified person investigating your complaint against the person who was allegedly investigating it, A, why is the head of complaints identified himself as investigating the complaint when he didn't? And B, why are they not naming the person who actually did investigate my complaint? Now, considering we got lab reports, times, industry-specific deadlines, and everything to assimilate, this person did that job in little over a month. And I actually identified, I think it was 7 companies who had products validated, because the only 2 that have been authorized is Purity Canary, but the other 5 validated despite having product sales, no product sales on or before 13/02/20. There was 3 companies identified as being validated despite their products being defined in UK legislation as controlled substances. There was also the actions of Paul Tossell, as well as the creation of a monopolies market and undeclared conflicts at several key panels that were used to create guidance for further legislative change. The thing is, right, how does anyone simply just from an employment agency come in and go, right, okay, yeah, I get this, blah, 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 here you are. Yeah. I also find it interesting that I've seen when he provided the initial response to the head of complaints and the unidentified employment agency worker states, I've kept the response impartial, just as you said. And it's like
that's a bit of a smoking gun. That's a bit.
It's a very big smoking gun, mate. Because to me, right, it's either someone who is very aware of the FSA's function and has been drafted in to basically dismiss the complaint effectively, or we have another thing to consider, right? And that is that who actually investigated it has a few more connections than just potentially with the FSA. Now, I've seen communications with this guy where his name's blacked out, but ultimately there is a level of familiarity that is expressed in those emails. And it's like, right, okay, then. So
is there, imagine you've looked at this. I'm not seeking to try and throw any organization under the bus here. Have you looked at correlations of which entities end up invested parties and industry bodies that represent them, any collective groups of trade organizations? Because this, the 1 month thing is either, as you say, somebody that's brought in to obfuscate their responsibility for killing it, and they were told to kill it and find any way to kill it, whatever that is, regardless of the content. You don't need to learn what all this is. You just need to look through it, find formality to reduce it. Or it's somebody who intimately knows this and is. Well, two names came into mind then, neither of which I'm going to fucking name publicly here. But I think I think that makes rational sense to me from other anecdotes, other conversations about other situations. It fits a larger tapestry. I know that some people might not be able to understand that because we haven't named people's involved, but
Well, so, that's what I'm here for. So there is two entities, all right? Now, first and foremost, all of the products that are named, none of them fall under the Cannabis Trades Association, all right? None of them fall under Steve Moore and the ACI. However, they were named in the complaint because there was some serious love affair going on between the ACI for minutes when after they were created in November 2019, certainly up until when they published a fake list of companies that the FSA had allegedly booted out of novel foods. And I have had confirmation that despite them saying it was a list from the FSA, it was a fake list and companies suffered because of that. Anyone, seeing this, right? The ACI, don't trust them. Right, not that you probably wouldn't be able to afford the 30 grand a month, membership. Oh, it's a year membership. Sorry, not a month. Equally, I understand that Steve Moore has, shall we say, a little bit of, he's known within consumer circles, shall we say? But again. His connection into all of these bits and pieces I can tell you about in a later. Just remind me, Tiger Report, right? But there are two other organizations. The first one is the European Industrial Hemp Association, all right? Now, some people might think that these are good guys, but one of their big members, well, that's Charlotte's Web. Now, Charlotte's Web, don't get me wrong, they got me into CBD in 2012 when I started seeing videos on YouTube, right? And it wasn't until 2016 that me and my wife set up Love Bud, didn't go anywhere, but then I started on this journey now. I do have a lot of respect for Charlotte's Web, but their products, despite UK legislation stating that you can only have 1 milligram per controlled cannabinoid per container, regardless of size, their products have been validated with 195 milligrams of THC, 194 times over the limit. Now, here's the thing, right? IA, the European Industrial Hemp Association, they have two large applications. Arguably, the largest is what's known as RP427. All right. Now, I know a lot of companies on there, and I know some of them have actually been, their products have been removed from the process for breaching MODA's 1 milligram rule. However, some of these companies were companies that I was talking to in my old job capacity back in the CTA, all right, when I was advising companies on the basic requirements for novel foods. And I could tell you, there was two that I was always throwing out at them. A, make sure that you only apply for products that existed on or before 130220. And by existed, I mean with provable sales, B2C. B2B invoices were not accepted, right? And the other one is to oblige the 1 milligram rule. So when I see some of the companies that have been booted off at the moment, I can tell you that they certainly weren't booted off for breaching that level by 194 times. And yet the FSA has just allowed them to sit pretty in the process. Equally, IA, to my knowledge, have not challenged the FSA in regards to any of their members being booted off the public list for breaching MODA. Now that, to me, is a little bit fishy, but not as fishy as the next one, right? The Health Food Manufacturers Association. Now, they're run by a company called Vitabiotics. Are you aware of them at all? Oh, there's a bit of a smile there, mate. What's that about?
I think there's only one other company that I can think of that are as kind of infamous at the level of this is Herbalife. It's pyramid-y, schemey, kind of very I don't want to say con manish, but just yeah, not clean money if there ever could be seen to be anything such as clean money.
Oh, I really need to do a little bit more digging on that then, for sure.
If unless I'm mixing them up with a different company, I
Yeah,
might be mixing them up with a different company.
Vitabiotics are tied in with a company called Brains Bioceuticals, who are also an interesting enigma, shall we say. Now, in regards to 130220, their products were validated in February 22, and on the news report, shall we say, the article in Nutra Ingredients that covered the the validation of those products, Brains Bioceuticals stated that they were just about to launch their products as a result, over 2 years after the deadline for when they should have had products on sale. And yet the FSA just letting it. Again, with that FOI response for all files, Brains were named, and according to the FSA, they had products on the market on or before 130220. Now, that's just insane. So, Brains Bioceuticals actually supply Vitabiotics, which means they too would not have had products available on or before 130220. But Vitabiotics are the head company of the Health Food Manufacturers Association. Now, they're interesting because not so long ago, the FSA commissioned a company called Deloitte to review novel food regulations. Now, the FSA said that it was nothing about CBD, although any change would affect a hell of a lot of companies going through that process. Equally, no CBD stakeholder, specified or specific stakeholder, was asked by either the FSA or Deloitte about any movement in novel food regulations, except for the Health Foods Manufacturers Association. And it's like, well, hold on. If it's not about CBD, why are you not taking a snapshot of everyone? Why has there been no CBD companies actually asked? Why has there been no dedicated stakeholder question on how any change could impact effectively? Oh, well, I'm not quite certain how many companies are going through the process, but I could tell you that there's approximately 200 applications and there's exactly 12,115 products that have been registered inside of the novel foods process. So you would think if it's not about CBD, you would still ask a CBD company how they feel about the process changing whilst they're partway through it. Right. And
you would think so.
And Brains, and by extension, Vitabiotics, are very, very interesting.
Sorry, 2 seconds. Just for clarity's sake, I was mixing it with a different company. I've just looked at their website. It's not the company I was thinking of. So just to protect my own ass there, and just for continuity's sake, yeah, that's not the company I was thinking of.
Yeah. Have you checked Vitabiotics?
I just had a quick look at the website. I saw the logo, and it's not. I can't remember the name of the company I'm thinking of, but that isn't the logo that I'm thinking of.
Well, another thing that's of extreme interest when it comes to Brains, all right, is the creation of the Tiger Report. Now, the Tiger Report in itself is interesting because it goes on about super soldiers, it goes on about centralized digital currency, and it goes on about creating a medicinal CBD and cannabinoid powerhouse in the UK. It also talks about releasing regulations to allow for more R&D to be progressed through CBD and cannabinoid products. All right. Interestingly, and this comes back to Steve Moore, right? Check out online a company called CRDG, right? The Cannabinoid Research and Design Group, right? Now I'm going to get this up as well. So hold on a second.
Cannabinoid Research and Development Group.
Oh, yeah. I thought I had the.
Well, it would have been easy to find. Why am I right here? In a news article. There we go, jumped over. Yeah.
Let's not say anything about the mugshot of Steve Moore in that in that website. But let me just draw your attention to this first. In the about part, right? The second paragraph on the right-hand side, our ambition is to develop and implement a comprehensive strategy to transform the UK into a global leader of cannabinoid research and medicine development. That is effectively the Tiger Report, right? So you scroll down and you'll see that George Freeman MP is there. Now, he might not be an MP at the moment because, you know, elections going on. He is, I believe, a Tory, and most of the Tories are jumping that sinking ship. But anyway, you know, well, let's not cheer for that one. He is actually one of the three persons that authored the Tiger Report. Right, so you got the creator of the Tiger Report fronting a group to push forward the agenda of the Tiger Report. Right, but it gets more interesting. See, he was also the Secretary of State for the Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategies, which then transferred over to the Department for Business and Trade. They are the government department that has been running the Tiger Report. And ultimately, they also have connections. Now, I mentioned earlier, it's definitely GW, right? I've got a Freedom of Information request in with the Department for Business and Trade, which they've been trying not to answer since February this year. And the question that I asked was for all information relating to GW Pharmaceuticals and the Department for Business and Trade. Now, the key thing here is that the Department of Business and Trade was founded in 2023 after BEIS, the Department of Business and Energy and Industrial Strategy, was wound up, right? So the fact that they have information in regards to GW is interesting considering Jazz has brought them. However, if you go to Jazz's site, you've got the GW cannabinoid portal, I believe. I saw it a few months ago. So in essence, I believe that whilst Jazz own GW still pretty much seems like a controlling entity, shall we say. So moving on, if we scroll down, we see that lovely picture of Steve Moore. And then we scroll down further and we see Brains as one of their founding members, right? Now, this is the interesting thing. Brains Bioceuticals also are mentioned in the Tiger Report as providing advice and direction on the creation. Who else is also mentioned in there? The Centre for Medicinal Cannabis and Steve Moore, who created this group that was ultimately to push the Tiger agenda. And the launch of this group was pretty much announced when George Freeman was announced as being the chair. It's Tiger in Tiger in Tiger. And when people kind of, you know, turn around and have hope for cannabis in the UK, well, that hope should only exist if you're prepared to challenge it, because this entity here will be pushing for all CBD products to be defined as as medicinal, right? And ultimately, their whole function is to separate cannabis from cannabinoids, because cannabis is a dirty word. Cannabinoids is where the money's at. And
and they're going to lead us to, if they get their way, 50 years from now, I'm an old man if I'm still fucking here fighting for a plant. And we've got a new super spice that's 25,000 times stronger than THC, and we've had 500,000 deaths in America, and they don't learn. They just don't fucking understand or care, or it's just money. It's just money, because they're the same grubby hands that are pushing in the opioid lobby. They're going, no, we're going to move away from opioids. And the world's like, yes, move away from opioids. And then everyone's still like, well, what's the alternative? And they're like, well, cannabis isn't there yet. You can't grow that plant and use it as a painkiller. We have to get involved. Let us do it for you. Pay us.
Pharmaceutical standards, sir. No, but the thing is,
sorry,
if these guys and Steve Moore get their wish, shall we say, it's going to be bad news for the CBD industry.
Globally, it's bad news for cannabis because this is part of the rescheduling agenda in the US.
Yeah. Well, there's lots we could talk about the US, mate. But it's not just the CBD industry that this will affect, right? You will end up having issues with the unlicensed cannabis for medicinal use market, right? Now, I believe in earlier conversations, we might have alluded to us both thinking that it's a stopgap measure, right? Well, here's something for you to consider, right? And I'm going to start with an interesting question. How do you think it became common knowledge that you were able to force decarboxylate CBD isolate into Delta 8? Think about it, but I will say this. When I was told of this in 2018, right, by a colleague who's escaped the industry now, bless him, you know, I was like, wow. How you know, that's jumping over a chain that shouldn't exist. And then you hear that, you know, solvents are used and the process is time sensitive. So you might get Delta 8, but you also might get Delta 9 or Delta 10 and THCV and whatnot. And it's like, wow, that's a bit interesting. But that sounds like seriously heavy work, right? Not as in the process, as in kind of getting your head around how it functions to then get to the process, all right? So how is it that we got CBD companies pondside who are like, oh yeah, you know? I believe that there's been unofficial R&D going on, right? And it has been for some time. I believe that the reason why you see a lot of medicinal, a lot of CBD companies getting away with medicinal claims is because actually there's someone taking notes, not so much the MHRA saying, oh, we'll pounce on you for this, matey boy. You know, we're talking someone possibly at GW, so possibly even a competitor. Like, you know, because there is starting to be the rise of them, unless they're all closely connected.
I was just about to say that hasn't a new company just launched that's made up of several former board members of GW that are creating a pill version of Epidiolex, effectively?
Have they? Hold on a second.
I can't remember the name of the company. I saw it the other day.
I mean, hold on. A pill. Why don't you just get a binding agent, a capsule presser, and create a CBD isolate pill? I mean, that's all it'd be.
Avata, AVATA Biosciences.
AV what?
AVATA Biosciences. I'm looking at an article here by Sarah Sinclair, former guest on Cannabis Health. And yeah, they're saying they're developing a solid dose cannabinoid medicines, which is just a solid dose. The language these people use is wonderful. For epilepsy and other neurological disorders, with a number of former GW pharmaceutical bosses on board.
Wow.
They're currently at clinical stage, I think, by the looks of this.
Dr. Chris Hayes, I think I've seen him in a few places.
They were formerly Sapient Therapeutics.
Right. That's interesting. I mean, you know, there is the potential of them being joined, but equally, there's the potential that they might have just gone their own way, got sacked by Jazz and thought, well, you know, we know stuff. Let's make things happen.
It's something we discussed. I think on one of the first appearances I had you on this. I'm trying to pull the anecdote together, so I'm not going to actually use that anecdote because I can't pull it together precisely enough to make it have merit. But we know from the God, 180, whatever it is, plus patents held by GW. Several of the patents, if not quite a lot of them, are held by the individual staffers and scientists and discoverers. And so there can then be core claims towards these things. We know obviously GW are pressing or in being pressed by sort of claims against them for CBD extraction. And the processing rather than the production of the products, as it were. And that's obviously a lot easier in industry to do. Whereas I think, like you say, everybody's quite happy to keep all this up in the air because it does feel like there is a puppet master somewhere. That there is somebody going, like you said, why was the Hemp Act allowed to go the way it was? And then during fucking COVID, the FDA suddenly went, oh, Epidiolex, yeah, you go, Schedule 5. And no one ever questioned it. No one, and then they're talking about Schedule 3 in the States, and you're like, well, why is that then? Like, there's so many things that, like I said, that can't make sense, but then when you think of it in a conspiratorial sense, it feels too big almost. But then one of the things that kind of, I'm sorry for the loss of the two individuals, and there's probably going to be more individuals if I'm honest. But I'm kind of glad that a company is doing this because it then shows the level of malevolence these fuckers have with the Boeing whistleblowers. Like, I think that it's a similar level of conspiracy with this shit, if not fucking larger in terms of like the aeronautic industry is fucking, of a certain cap in size, and it's going to fluctuate and have its problems with, domestic flights being banned and shit like that in Europe and various other regions. And the long term of that is going down, whereas the long term of cannabinoids, like you said, is very much an uptake. And if you're the company that owns the patents for all the things, you're God. Doesn't matter where it's made, how it's made, you're paid every goddamn day. If every medication is then a cannabinoid medication, if every extract is, then you're paid for everything. Oh, every gram goes through that. And, like, I can see them trying to be that robber barons that we had during the second industrial revolution. Like, and you can already kind of see tech's going one way, and they're creating a massive, like, technocratic feudalistic kind of state online in the digital realm. And I think cannabis is that resource by which they can fundamentally take over the world. Like, we're still going all greenhouses and millions here and this and that. It's like, nah, mate, when you start talking trillions in plants and we're talking biofuels, like, look at Formula One. Like, their engine models, they're going back from 80-20 to like 50-50 from 2026. So they're moving away from electric hybrid engines, and they're trying to move back towards pure combustion, but using biosynthetic fuels. What would make one of the best biosynthetic fuels? Do you know what I mean? It's
bagpipes.
Bagpipes, exactly. So we need to start farming bagpipes, people. Break the law, grow your own bagpipes. Hashtag free
absolutely.
The pipes.
Don't smoke them. But if you do, don't use a rolling mat.
Yeah, roach right on your bagpipes.
I did tell you I actually used part of a bagpipe, a broken set that I had to use as a chillum.
I think you did, yes. I think you did previously. Did it make a sound, or does it need a bag?
Well, it needs a bag and a reed, really, to make a sound. But I did actually also use a Bosnian opium pipe as a replacement bass drone, because the bore was a friend's, first and foremost, right? But the bore was actually perfect size for a bass drone reed. So I literally took the bass drone out, put the opium pipe in, and it had like it was straight. Looked like it had sections almost like a bass drone. And then of course you had that protruding part where you'd smoke what you were putting in, and that sounded
interesting. Okay, good combination here, mixing your music and your drugs, folks.
It's got to be done. Bagpipes really does have a rich history with cannabis, not just because that they use hemp thread to stay airtight, but also when I was at university doing an audio and music production degree, we had a create your own junkyard instrument module. So I actually went to one of the bloody head shops in Plymouth, right? And I said, you guys got any broken bongs you want to get rid of? And they're like, what for? So I want to make a set of bagpipes out of them. They're like, okay, here's a box. And then I walk straight into the university with this box, bongs sticking out left, right, and centre. And they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, junkyard musical instrument. they've all started wetting themselves, but at the same time, they're turning around going, you're not really leaving a good vision of this college right now. If someone walks in and sees a box of bongs on there, it doesn't matter that you're going to use them to make a musical instrument.
I'm sorry, teacher. These are water pipes. Get your mind out of the gutter. I would never stoop so low.
Yeah. It is what you see, isn't it? You know, I see a rolling mat, you see one of those blinds.
Yep. Everything's perspective, indeed. Yeah. But no, I think everything you're going to keep progressing on this road, it keeps coming back to the same thing, that it's corruption disguised as incompetence. I mean, that's British politics 101, baby. That's what we do. It's look at Boris Johnson, you know what I mean? I don't know if you've ever seen the famous interview with his sister where she's like, he's a fucking moron. Like, I don't mean he's an actual moron like you think he's a moron. Like, he's an idiot, but he's a genius savant. Like, he fucks up his hair before he goes out in public. He dresses deliberately when he put his England shirt on over his suit. Like, the whole thing, the spectacle of getting caught on the wire and stuff like that. I mean, just crafty. I mean, that interview that he gave talking about, you know, I used to like, painting buses when I was younger, and it was like a hack to get rid of the 350 million off the side of the red bus. And it's just, he's the pinnacle of that. But it's the clown, the buffoon. So we mock him for that absurdity, that ad hominem attack, and it misses the point of the villainy. And it's we expect we're what's the word, like inculcated into believing through things like Marvel movies and things like that the villain is a certain power and it presents in a certain way, and it isn't. And I'll reiterate this again for folks. It's like, it's not people on dinghies that you need to be worried about. It's the people on fucking yachts. Like, the killer whales are even recognizing this shit, and they're down in yachts at a record pace over the past couple of years. I don't know if you've seen anything about that.
No, but I can tell you something extremely interesting. The CEO of the FSA, who responded ultimately to my complaint, well, she has history. Her name is Miss Emily Miles, and between 2002 to 2005, she was in fact a policy advisor for Tony Blair. But in 2003, she actually provided, as an opinion, the basic framework for the Rwanda bill. And it was literally, it was like, we'll just send immigrants off to a third party nation who is friendly. Although there was also suggestions of sending them either to the Isle of Mull or the Falkland Islands. I could imagine, like, if I was escaping some war torn territory, and you think, all right, I've got to Britain, right? Yes, it rains. Yes, but there is a level of safety. Oh no, I'm going down to the Falkland Islands, and I'm going to cuddle penguins. Yay! I just it just seems absurd. But when you come down to this, control masquerading as incompetence, right? The FSA in themselves have constantly turned around and said, we didn't know how much hard work novel foods would be. Like, we didn't realize how many companies would apply, right? And they've said that basically from 2020. However, what they don't tell you is that they were planning novel foods since 2015. They submitted, after talking to EU member states, an Article 4 for the instigation of novel foods to the EU, right? The EU announced novel foods in January 2019. The FSA did nothing for just over a year and then started the process off. They knew exactly how many companies were about, right? But instead, every time someone says, why is this process taking so long? So, we didn't realize there'd be so many of you, and so many of you literally submitted really naff applications. So we extended the deadline so you could tie yourself in with a consortium bid or someone with a more credible application. But, we can only do what we can. That's how it feels like. Whereas in reality, they contacted EU member states between 2015 to 2018. So not only would they be aware of what was happening in the UK, they would have been aware of what was happening in the EU. Equally, I know from 2017, the FSA, the then head of novel foods, Ruth Willis, was actively engaging with the Cannabis Trades Association. Now, 2017, I think that was just before the spat between Mike Harlington and Peter Reynolds. So really, was there any other dedicated agency or association about at that time? Now, don't get me wrong. I know there was obviously mixed feelings about the CTA, certainly back then. What were they about? Was there shiftiness going on? But the fact of the matter is, they were the largest association in the UK, right? And even though the FSA were discussing bits and pieces with them, including up to the point of announcing novel foods in its first format in 2017, right? They would have still been very aware of the rest of the industry, the ones who didn't know of the CTA or just weren't interested in joining the CTA. So when they turn around and say, "Oh, yeah, it's like cry me a river," seriously, that is so much bullshit in a teaspoon that I just can't handle it.
100%. To take a moment to speculate, if we can, about that year, because that year does feel very fucking crucial.
2018.
The year of, I was going to call it, not abstinence. I can't think of the word I'm thinking of. Inaction is whatever word I was looking for there. But the inaction of the FSA have basically gone, we're going to do this thing. And then that period of time before they did it. Well, I want to sort of speculate on why that was allowed to happen in the way that it was. Because if you think of, again, the climate, there's a certain narrative now of like lockdown denialism. So a whole bunch of people that spent a whole bunch of time saying to people that were skeptical of lockdown measures were genocidal, were killing fucking the grandparents for everybody, were shutting the economies, were ruining everybody's lives. They're now being gaslit and said that never happened. But there was that palpable fear at first when it was on the news and the radio and everybody was being told, conform to this fucking thing or you are the devil. You know, there's countless clips of celebrities and media people, presenters and whatnot with this vitriol, this hatred towards it. And that mentality, that fear that then dissipated over time, that when we look back at, you're like, oh, that never happened because you didn't experience it. You weren't the victim of it. Apply that to that year of the FSA, suddenly goes, you've built CBD and spent all this time separating it from cannabis. Granted, I've said I believe that was wrong, but you did that to put yourself over here as hemp, and we're different, we're allowed, here's the law, here's the European law, here's the da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And then the entity comes over and goes, nah. Did you know? I mean, I feel that the year was just, it's the sword of Damocles, I think is what the, you know what I mean? And you don't know, it's Schrodinger's fucking execution. You don't know when they're going to chop your head off. So many people are just pressured out over time. And then, like you say, a big consortium comes over and goes, oh, you pay us this money, join our membership, we'll get you in. And then another one goes, oh no, come with us. And like you said, there was just this period to generate corruption as far as I can't see any other reason other than to allow that to happen and the right and proper people to get in place. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, you know, I'll try and be as concise with the timeline as possible. And funny enough, it starts with Epidiolex entering phase 2 and 3 trials in 2014 to 2015. Right. So basically, in 2015, the Home Office and some companies, as Paul Tossell tells me, approached the FSA asking what the novel status of CBD was. All right. That's where the FSA basically undertook a 3-year journey. Now, when it comes to Novel Foods Mark 1 in 2017, hold on. We started in 2015. Rewind, right? Then we get 2016, right? Epidiolex has passed phase 3 trials. 2 months later, right, the MHRA tried to define CBD as a purely medicinal compound, but that was thwarted due to a public backlash, right? 2017. Now, my wife and I, at that time, we'd been shadowing the CTA because we saw them as the only ones who would be able to direct us to the relevant requirements to be legit in the industry. as it were. But we went to their AGM that year. Now, what I learned was that the head of novel foods at that time, Ruth Willis, had indicated to both Mike Harlington and Guy Coxall that the Home Office had tried to pressure her to define all cannabinoids as novel. Now, interestingly, that's after as well, not just the MHRA trying to define CBD as medicinal, but also after Ben Whaley, key researcher for GW, had been placed into the ACMD and had helped to define 12 cannabinoids of interest to become defined as controlled. All right. So after finding out about Ruth Willis saying that the Home Office was pressuring her to define all cannabinoids as novel, we then find out that Novel Foods Mark 1 exists, which is basically that full and broad spectrum products are okay. The only products that are novel are those that are made with isolate. Now, interestingly, if you were ever to look at the Article 4 that the FSA submitted to the EU that calls novel foods, and this comes back to substitution, as I was mentioning earlier, it only calls for 10% isolate in MCT to be defined as novel, right? And yet that's been applied to everything. But at that time, that document was in creation. It was all about that product dynamic. The FSA were working by it, and they decided that full and broad spectrum products were okay. But then you got Steve Moore who jumps in, and he's part of the campaign to legalize medicinal Epidiolex, shall we say, because we're still in the world of unlicensed medicinal cannabis. That doesn't sound quite legal to me, but it just seems like allowed, shall we say. He jumps into the equation, but I'm jumping the gun again. Am I? No, I'm not. 2018, that's right. That starts kicking off. And of course, we know that Epidiolex campaign was funded by GW. There's an interesting book called Drug Policy Constellations. I sent you the abstract.
That was a Freudian slip. Yeah, I've approached the author to be a guest, or at the very least to have a conversation with, because, since you pointed that out to me, it's good to know that there are individuals of similar ilk and caliber to the individuals performing what I see as these crimes against the British public that can see that as well, and are like, nah, man, don't like that. Do you know what I mean? So it's nice to see I've got allies in spaces I didn't think I have. So I am hoping to strike conversations there.
Excellent. Hopefully that leads to an interview, and I look forward to watching that if that does occur. 2018. Now we get to September. Strangely, Ruth Willis, the head of Novel Foods, who had accepted the task of defining the novel status of CBD and had told the CTA that the Home Office were trying to define, or wanted her to define, all cannabinoids as novel, disappears. All right. In the same month, we've got the veterinary medicines doctorate defined CBD supplemental products for pets as outlawed. All right. And then in October, we've got the secret submission of that Article 4 to the EU with no head of novel foods, which is interesting because it's novel food related, but there was no head there. And then, of course, we basically have the legalization of Epidiolex the month after, although we didn't really, as an industry, the CBD industry, that is, realize the impact that was going to have until January 2019, when the EU announced novel foods for all CBD products, regardless of the fact that Article 4 was only covering 10% isolate in MCT oil. And there is a structured, I've missed so much out in that timeline. There's so much going on. For example, the cannabis samples that I was telling you about, the Home Office sent some more off to GW. I believe it was February, March, April that year, right? Before the legalization. It was almost like, test this, and, if you got some surplus, just use it to make a little bit more Epidiolex or something, And also, you mentioned America. The US approved Epidiolex in that year. Of course, if you go back, you'll see that they had an orphan drug designation awarded to them by the FDA in 2015, the same year when companies and Home Office approached the FSA to determine the novel foods or novel status of CBD. There is so much going on. I mean, really, I need to consider creating the most comprehensive timeline possible, because there is so much interweaving between, medical trials to decisions to samples to milestone events, that if you see it with your own eyes, you will see clearly that, as I said at the beginning of this interview, if you want to see the control that is being placed on cannabis, look no further than the CBD industry, because ultimately everything is explainable there. Whereas with recreational cannabis and the uncertainty around medicinal, because I see a very uncertain future there, like it's speculation, uncertainty, it's confusion, and really you don't see anything until it's dropped on your face, as it were. CBD, you get to see it all. It might bore you because it's low fat, but at the same time, you will see the control that is being exerted by a government that has interests, and that's very important. And that's, I feel, is also very evident every time you hear skunk, because you'll still hear it. I haven't come across a decent bit of skunk since about 2001.
I recently had pleasure of some blue skunk, Sensi Seeds' new variety. Got a lot of love for Sensi, but out of a 5-pack, watching 3 of them Herbie is not very good generally.
But you don't look like you've got psychosis.
Who knows? The start of this podcast was a bit rocky.
Oh dear.
You're exactly right. It's there is this, as we spoke of before, this just conspiracy of interest that they're starting to pull all the strings in. So there are certain individuals, like ourselves, that can kind of see these certain things, and we do sound like crazy people when we're like Chicken Little, the sky's fucking falling. But we've got enough of the sky, and we can see the holes in the sky, and we're watching the bits fall from the sky. It's like you say, you just need to get them in a position to see it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm working with...
And most importantly, don't get frustrated with the sky falling in. Question why the sky is falling in.
100%. And exactly that. We can start to then see, oh, wait, it's the dude over there with a baseball bat smashing the fucking sky. Because remember,
is that John you were talking about earlier that you got
probably
from a public school?
Yeah, exactly that. And the problem is everyone is the protagonist of their own narrative. We are all the hero of our own story. I said this the other week when I said, I think Bundy or somebody justifies killing people, and he'll have a way in his head. He'll sit down afterwards and go, I've done good for the world. Do you know what I mean? Because no one does anything they don't feel good to do, if you know what I mean. We don't just go, I disagree with this, but I'm going to go do it. Do you know what I mean? We'll have a rationale and a mechanism. So I can kind of see all of these people in their thing and going, and all, but no, more money in bigger market, more people helped, and it's because they have no experience, no understanding of the culture I alluded to before, of the pre-existing community and people that have built this, that everything they know, they did in laboratories and whatever, but as you said, they stole that from us. All the cultivars that they've got and all the profiles and all the understanding of these things, it was on material that literally they broke down our doors violently. They tore our fucking families apart to get access to these things. And now they're creating this industry. And like I said, through so many different avenues of it's diffused in a way that if you don't know, you're a conspiracy theorist. Just because that guy works over there and happens to work over there and used to work over there doesn't mean that that's all connected. Doesn't mean just because that guy got a bigger salary. And you give him $100,000. So what are the friends? Do you know, they can explain and rationalize everything that is to us foundationally corrupt and hypocritical. Because if one of us were to just grow a load of plants and sell some weed and try and get a mortgage and get out of the fucking gutters and get out of austerity, they would target us, vilify us, demonize us, drag us through the courts, have our papers in the press, call us all sorts. Do you know what I mean? Yet when they do it, oh, put him in a magazine. Oh, he's such a good guy. A dealer is a dealer. And that's they robbing us, using their language to manipulate again to go skunk. They grow skunk. You know, the kids stabbing each other. That's their marijuana. We grow medical cannabis.
Oh,
Like it's the perpetuation of this artificial binary of bullshit that only exists because of their actions or their successors' actions, the predecessors, sorry, their actions. They've just inherited that system. Oh, I'm a lord because my daddy was a lord, and our interests are, I don't know, I was going to say cotton. Maybe it was back in the day. But whatever foundational industrial resource that it is, you see cannabis as a threat. So you either then go, oh, I'll get that away, or you go, oh, well, how can we figure, all right, we want to own that bit of it. So yeah, make hemp a thing. So then we demonize the cannabis kids, but we could look, oh, we grow textiles and oh, we're hippies. Oh, you're not a fucking hippie, mate. You're a billionaire. You've inherited a 10th generation title just because you're growing some cannabis on your private land. Do you know what I mean? It's that kind of thing where they shouldn't be allowed it until we're not criminalized for it at a minimum. Then social justice should kick in a sense of going, well, if there is to be a thing, maybe we'll let the people that we've demonized, criminalized, and vilified for decades have a chance.
I wonder if there should be some kind of law with some of these people. I mean, I've seen some of the mugshots for Dr. Jeffrey Guy, and I look at him and I feel like you're growing skunk. And yet, I don't think you can even make a spliff with a rolling mat. Like I have the same with a lot of people. Like you know, Theresa May's influence on cannabis in the UK. She you know, running through what Caulfield's famous thing, was she running around with her own made doob? I doubt it. I bet she doesn't even know how to spell Rizzler, even with her Oxford Cambridge education. As Steve Moore. I mean, you know, we just seen a very interesting picture of the man. I mean, obviously, for anyone who's just joined the interview now, we're not talking interesting. It's just a scary looking picture. There is on a business. But I look at him and I think, nah, mate, I bet you couldn't even turn in a roll up, let alone a free skinner.
And that's the thing of it, is that we need their skill set and their talents and what they can do in their ways, but they can't be allowed to speak for us. It's entirely analogous to the fucking criminalization of homosexuality. That then we can't then get into a room and go, well, okay, here's all the straight people are going to get together. Oof, there's the law. You need to, at least one of us in that fucking room, because when you put a plan together, we'll go, what about this? 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 We should be the majority in that room. Yeah, they're doing everything, like you say, they're hiding, and oh, we'll create an acronym in this little company over here. Oh, and this here, and we'll fill it with doctors, and we're all medical now, and like the space is getting, like you say, it feels like co-option and capture. And I'm sorry to whoever this may offend, but the whole big nasty thing and shit like that, they're just coming and capturing entities that are allowed in that grey area. They're not going to suddenly lose their account for being related to cannabis. Do you know what I mean? Because they had a Channel 4 show. Do you get what I'm saying? So there's certain entities and people that are there. I don't want to say they're useful idiots. I don't mean to describe him as an idiot. That's not what I mean. But like a pawn, a piece within that. And they go, yeah, you can have your company and you can do your little bits now and do your videos. Yeah, get the youth, get everybody on prescriptions. Yeah, keep going, sign them all up. But he's a cultural icon. Do you get what I'm saying? So he's pictured at 420 with a fucking joint, yet we're not allowed to smoke our fucking things. He's the head of a medical company. Like, there's just these hypocrisies and these issues that if it's like okay for one, it has to be okay for all of us.
Because I believe he's got a prescription in it. If you're turning up with a spliff,
I've got a prescription. I would argue that my prescription, I vape my prescription. This isn't prescription cannabis. This is better quality, organic, home grow, entirely traceable, 100%. I know what's in it. I know everything about it.
So you got your meds and then you got your
actual meds. Yeah, I've got my prescription that keeps me safe under the laws of the land at the minute, and then I've got the product that actually helps me. And the two don't correlate to me. They're not the same thing for me. And my argument would be, I'd be happy to pay for the paper and the jar. just don't force me to buy your shit weed. You can say, oh, we're good, blah, blah, blah. It's like, I am blessed. I am connected to some good people. I enjoy a good life in a good part of the country where cannabis is a top tier product. Even if they can match me, fuck them. They are my enemy in the sense that they are impoverishing my community. They're stopping the dealer that used to say I sell to like 4 or 5 biddies down the road, and they then suddenly get on the scripts. What happens to that guy and his grow? What happens to his kids? What happens to his mortgage? People are not understanding the logistics of this. Curaleaf were another company we just saw down there on that CDPR, whichever acronym it was, the cannabis.
CRDG.
That's the one. And yeah, like, where do we think their money is when they sell cannabis? Where's their tax going to be paid at the end of the day? Dealer Dave, champion for Dave all the time. Dave down the road, when he's got that 20 bag, you've gone and bought that 20 bag from him. That 20 quid, he goes, oh, for a pizza. Goes to the fucking across the road at the pizza shop. Do you know what I mean? The money, it doesn't go anywhere. But then if you break the Daves and the community-led incentives of collectives and individuals that serve the needs of those that they love in their immediate area, and you have these gangs, yeah, the gangs take all the money and fuck off. But then when you go to legalization or to medical access, that money still fucks off. We're still on the losing end of this. We should be championing and rising up the people that you currently look at now and go, dealer, that tomorrow is a business leader. The guy that we're currently trying to make the head of that organization, he's going to crash that company into the fucking ocean. Look at MedMen. Look at so many other organizations in America and Canada and the billions that have been pissed up the wall. If they put one cannabis person in that space, one legacy, actual cannabis person alongside these people to be ahead of the game right now, we wouldn't be having. I need to look at the investigation, so I'm not going to comment too heavy on it. In the LA Times, I think it was recently, about all the pesticide scandal within California and the lawful industry over there. I've said this since day dot. If you then say, oh, you only allowed 0.009 millionth of a particle of this, they'll go to within 0.00001 of it. Wherever you draw the lines, wherever you create industry, mass industry, look at it anywhere with anything. When you scale it up to that size, profit becomes God and it replaces ethics and morality. The product becomes not even secondary, it's third, because secondary is marketing, advertising. Then it's like market share and capture. Then it's getting new people and keeping in for life. And then it's the emotional attachment to the brand. Then they go, oh, shit, we sell cannabis. Make it good. Do you know what I mean? It's the last thing they think of is the bud. Yet that Dave, every day stressing, not in like, oh my God, but he's looking at that going, I want to get the best out of that plant. And then when it comes to crop, if he looks at it, he goes, you know what, I can do fucking better. I'll just smoke it. I'll cut that down. I'll make some trim for it or whatever. And he's not going to put that in market. That's Dave's bud. If you're smoking Dave's bud, Dave's put love into that. Do you know what I mean? It's the best product it can be. He's not going to use some fucking glyphosates. He's not going to go and sly in some PGRs and some other stuff and because Dave really gives a shit about it. And if we keep arresting Daves or gaslighting and destroying and demonizing and vilifying the Daves, if they go, okay, I'll be hemp for a couple of years, because then eventually I'll get to grow my plant. I'll be CBD for a couple of years. Whatever it is that they're making them walk down is the road to their gallows. Any path they provide for us is to our own demise. We have to forge it ourselves, you know?
And yet you basically outlined the issues of the CBD industry as it's being faced. You know, the people who built the industry, the people who really give a damn about the consumer are those who are being pushed out in favor of Canneray and Purists. You know, Charlotte's Web, you know, at the end of the day, like I said, I do have respect for them, but considering what their product means to the industry, I think it's very bad play by them. And yeah, it is your Daves who would, you know, get that 20 quid and throw it back into the local community. They're the ones that are disappearing in favor of the FSA's chosen few, the few that will happily jump into the industry and supply you with CBD products as long as it doesn't step on GW's toes. But the thing is, that 20 quid now goes into some rich man's pocket who probably doesn't even know how to spell roll, Matt.
Do you remember, like the height, this is into my youth, of like your big, like when the Metro Centre in the north was fucking huge, when retail shopping was booming, and there was joke shops, just stupid fucking joke shops, and there was like dad geeky shops, I think they were billed as, and you'd go in, there'd be weird little toys and eccentric things and just plastic tat, and you'd go in there and there'd be a novelty section. And they'd be like, oh, you fake chewing gum, and it'd be Wrigley's or whatever. And like, there'd be fake poo or whatever, and fly ice cubes and that kind of shit. And I can't help but feel That's what they want CBD to be, is a novelty product. So you can go, I want to try CBD, and you can go and you get the novelty product and go, oh, well, actually, I think maybe you did help me. And that all that does is you then have to jump in the pathway and you're into medicine. It's a medicine, or it's that little novelty of, oh, it's got CBD, oh, it's got CBD in it. In the same way, for fucking 20, 30 years, head shops have been selling cannabis lollipops, and it's got like hemp seed oil in it. But it's called cannabis lollies. Do you know what I mean? Or like it's the same fucking thing. It's novelty. It's look at me. It's never going to be about actually getting it fucking into you. Because I would advocate, don't take me. I'm not a professional. Actually, you can take this advice if you want. I'm not your doctor. But as much as you want of any cannabinoid, we are a self-regulating system. We store it in our fingernails, in our hair, in our bones. We put it every fucking way because your body really wants it. Do you know what I mean? I wish it was. You know, it's weird in that sense of like cocaine or something. Oof. Like LSD for all. Yeah, you're tripping on it for a while. I had this with the Leafy lads, and they were like, "Wait, what are you talking about? It's fast acting." I mean, it's fast acting. It's on the receptor, and it's fucking gone because your body goes, "Whoa, no. We do not want that shit in here." But you put the tiniest bit of cannabinoids in there, and it'll diffuse. Just pulling it, and it's hanging on the side. So your body desperately wants it, and then you go over it if it's THC or a CBN or one of the more higher acting psychoactive cannabinoids, or classics, we have to call them, I suppose now, classic branch cannabinoids. You're just gonna go to fucking sleep. Unless you even like edibles. I think I did like nearly 10,000 milligrams. I did 10 grams of oil over a Christmas dinner, and that fucked me up for 3 days. I'll grant you, that made me sick. Third day waking up still so stoned that I was feeling nauseous. Slightly problematic. I can understand that, but even that, I knew can't suppress respiration, can't cause me any long-term illness. The problem was that basically by the time you digest it, because the amount of food as well, it slowed the system, like slowed my whole body down. I ate like 3 plates of it. I put like a gram in the gravy and shit, and I was like, I'm not wasting nothing. So it was like 3 fucking meals to eat everything. And because the way the amount of food that you eat then slows down your metabolism, the way they could break it down, because then it's catching the oil, as it's breaking down the oil, it's slowing down the metabolism. So then as it keeps going, it just kept going slower and slower and slower until literally, like it was the 4th day I woke up and could almost have like a little tear in my eye of, I can enjoy getting stoned today. Because in the other days I was smoking to almost manage, not the nausea, but like a feeling of, this isn't right. You know what I mean? But even that, it's like, you're not going to go that too far with it. Especially something like CBD, again, it becomes sedatory at a higher dosage. So the worst you're going to get is sleepy. There doesn't seem to be the same mechanism where THC, especially if you eat it it breaks down to delta hydro. I can't even fucking think of the compound now. Hydroxy delta fucking thing, delta, you know what I'm trying to think of. It's the metabolite of THC that we break it down when we eat it, and I can't think of it off the top of my head right now. But anyway, when you sort of consume that's going to have a much more like munchied feeling, whereas it doesn't seem to be the same thing with high dose of CBD. So I would say, just as long as you're not driving, take thousands of milligram, do whatever you want with it. When it finds your level, and it's usually not the level of therapeutic I've found, it's the level you can afford. And again, that goes back to the argument.
Well, CBD helps regulate core bodily functions such as mood, memory, appetite, and sleep-wake cycle. I mean, that's in its food sense. That's not in its medicinal sense. Equally, the World Health Organization in 2017, 2018 stated that the average person could consume up to 2,400 milligrams a day with no ill effect. But let's be honest, that is probably an amount that will put someone to sleep. But the UK Food Standards Agency reckons that more than 10 milligrams over prolonged use might make your liver blow up. So, you know, something's not right there. But
so how do we square that circle? Are Europe still moving towards their higher ADI? Are they still? Because obviously we have issues. France tends to cause a lot of problems for the Europeans when it comes to CBD, and then bucking the trend and being like, no, we want this. I mean, you've obviously got certain allowances for like Austria's loose interpretation of like cultivation and selling like non-flowering plants, etc. Italy's allowed to get away with its higher CBD. Switzerland obviously not party to the convention, so they're not really caught up in the same kind of restrictions. But yeah, France seems to be having this issue of cases getting to the court that are then going to the European court. And I'm just wondering if we were starting to see domestic issues in some of the member states that might cause a problem if there were to be a move towards changing that. Because, I mean, over here, Little Britain, like I said, post-Brexit or whatever, we're still stuck with some edicts, but it's basically their interpretation of, oh, well, this is one that we can just know this is us.
Well, to my understanding, they're playing the game fair, although I'm worried and suspicious to say that. But whereas we've got 12,115 products going through novel foods, the FSA, I believe, had between 9 to 12 applications, and that's it. It's focusing on the ingredient and not the finished product like the FSA is doing, only we're both following the same rule format.
So are they going to, like, white labelers and wholesalers?
Yeah, no white label has been allowed in the UK since 2020.
Have they found a way to obfuscate around this? Can they be white labeled somewhere else? Can they be... And then...
Well, you can white label in the EU, definitely. But, and, you know, in the UK, yeah, you can white label cosmetics, vapes and the likes of, but food products... No, they base the FSA, and this is the thing that comes back to Purus and Cannery, right? The FSA stated that no new products were allowed to be released after 130220, right? So any white label product would be a new product. And if it was released after that time, it wouldn't be subject to the CBD amnesty, which includes the public list.
But did they do that with explicit language, or is it not going to be some company trying to argue that no, this exact formulation, they've done all the toxicology, they've already got passed,
Don't matter.
but we bought up the rights or the intellectual property, or it's explicitly rejected?
Explicitly, well, not rejected to a point. I mean, you were still allowed to go through novel foods, but unlike through the CBD amnesty, you wouldn't be able to sell your products until they were fully authorized.
Right, yeah.
You know, and considering that we started this process from the FSA standpoint on 130220, and it was only on the 29th of May, 29th of April, that Purus and Cannery's applications were recommended for authorization. We still haven't quite got the authorization, but I suspect that will occur after the general election. But ultimately, hold on. Now, there's an interesting thought. If the Tories are looking like they're going to be decimated at the end of this election cycle, Miss Aikins won't be in her position as Secretary of State for the Department of Health and Social Care. Ooh. So I wonder. It won't really change that much. I mean,
well, no, I mean,
they'll still be authorised, and they'll still be authorised against the rules that the FSA has actively enforced over 99.9% of the industry, which is the tragedy in itself. But yeah, no new products, and really, if Cannery and Purus had just about got their applications authorized, we would probably start to see one or two companies that weren't in that process starting to emerge. Now, I know Unilever and Mondelez have interests with CBD. They were identified in 2020. I'm aware that Nestle had interest because they rang me up when I was still working at the CTA, and they were like, so who are you? And I'm like, who are you? Oh, Nestle. Oh, nice. I think Coca-Cola, of course, have had a long-standing interest. One wonders when they are coming in. And in fact, I did see a report recently on CBD in drinks, and it was very interesting to see that I think Pepsi actually sponsored that, as well as some other drink brands.
Well, there is a certain school of thought. I'm trying to figure out, I believe I did have a conversation with this briefly with somebody on the podcast, but I kind of for the life of me remember who the hell it was. It wasn't. It was off the podcast. I'm trying to figure out if this is their company's R&D. No. And if I speak in a loose enough way, I'm not going to attribute it to any company, so I hopefully won't get myself in fucking trouble here or lose a contact. There has been a school of thought and some investigation for a while of using terpenes to replace sugar. So interest in cannabis and cannabinoids, especially from a company like Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola happened to be one of the largest producers of cocaine as a byproduct. They just happen to use coca leaf, you know what I mean? Cocaine. They may or may not have interests in the north of South American regions and countries push towards the collective global bodies to create a lawful trade in cocaine. And so, yeah, I can definitely see that. We've obviously then seen with, I think it was Tilray in Canada, have become the majority shareholder in a beverage company in Colorado. It's an alcohol company, but they're moving into obviously then through the same, because if you own all the infrastructure, you own a canning plant. Oh, and you have all this filtration. You have everything. All we have to do is put in this little ingredient. You know what I mean? That's what they're starting to look at now. Like, say, if they've taken cannabinoids away from cannabis, Wrigley's will be knocking at the door going, oh, we want to stick this in our chewing gum. Do you know what I mean? We can replace, we can put terpenes in instead of sucralose or fucking whatever they changed the name of aspartame to these days. It's that they're looking at these things because those products are fucking huge markets, unbelievably huge markets because they're in everything. Like, and as we move into a health conscious world, with cannabis, not with sugar, not with fake sugar or any of the things that are already tainted by the existing kind of awareness of problematic overuse of these things, or in some cases, just fucking use. I can see that being a huge thing. And these guys are, as we always spoke of, the peripheral players that are just waiting for us to figure this shit out down here. And then like, once you've got the language in the thing and you can continue to demonize the people, because we want a law and order society, we want tougher. Do you know what I mean? You got fucking reform coming out in there. Sorry, not a manifesto. It's a contract. Because they're obviously not a political party. They're a fucking private business, effectively. I think there's 12 shares. No, is it 11 shares? And like Nigel Farage has 6 of them or whatever it is. He's the majority shareholder of a handful of fucking shares, basically. So he's God. And one of their policies is substantial possession. They now want to create a new charge of substantial possession. So not just possession, you had a substantial amount. And substantial is, again, one of those just Orwellian, what the fuck is substantial? Can you quantify substantial for me? I remember, right, I'm going to tell this anecdote, right, Secret Garden Party, the one and only time I went, the last year before it closed down, before it came back now, I got in, me and my mate, fucking drug dogs, fucking everything, running the gambit, because you didn't realize, fucking royal family goes to this fucking thing. It was the most middle-class thing I've ever been to in my life. Very fish out of water. Set up my tent, rolled a fatty, was like, woo! About to spark a joint, fucking cop appears, walking through the campsite. He goes, I'm like, shit, okay. He goes, come here. Because I need to search it. And I'm like, I've just ripped up my tinnies and all my stashes and I've got all my bits, you know what I mean? Got all my stuff. And I go a step towards him and something clicks. The gods touch him. And he goes, unless you got something to give me. And I had a quarter of blackberry kush, black, rich, dark, juicy. And I give him, and he's like, "Oh, that's a big bag of weed." And I'm in my head going, "You don't know the other fucking ounce and a half that I've got in other bags of other varieties." And I'm going, "Yes, that's my whole weekend supply." And to him, that's a substantial amount of weed. To me, that was probably an afternoon. Do you know what I mean? It's perspective of the thing. We have to quantify the language, and they don't want to narrow it down because they want to make sure. But he was a black man. Doesn't matter how much it was. He was the wrong. Do you know what I mean? They want their prejudice. They want their ability to fuck you up and then go, oh, well, this piece of paper says I can. Oh, but Jeremy, one of our sons got in trouble. Oh, well, that's okay. We'll let him off today. Do you know what I mean? The bullshit of it all, the pageantry of it all, that is what bothers me the most. It fires me up the most. I don't care what you do when you corrupt your industries and you fuck over the planet and you manage to turn this beautiful resource into another problem for us, as long as my people are free. As long as I don't have to think about the next generation of kids that, Kevin, don't know half the things that we know, that when that cop grabs them and sees that 7 grams, they're going to ruin their life.
Yeah, and I tell you what, thinking of the extension on that, if we are seeing basically a complete removal of cannabis in favor of cannabinoids, and then we do see the likes of Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Nestle, and the likes of that doing cannabinoid-rich products, whilst also there being medicinal cannabinoid products. I mean, that in itself would be more crazy than the situation that we've had in the past, where it's just like the plant's evil. It's just like, those companies can use it. No doubt they'll have processes. They can use it, but you can't even grow it.
But it kind of makes sense in the way of going, well, no, but it's safe limits, and they've got us so used to it. Think of your traffic light symbol or your thing on your packaging of food of red and green and and so you go, I can't eat that. It's too much red. Or what? Do you know what I mean? It's all of these. It's individual. You can smash a 12 box of eclairs one evening. As long as you don't do that every day, you ain't going to have a problem per se. You might spike your fucking body glucose for a bit, and you might have a pancreas pain from processing all of that crap for a while. But as long as you don't continually engage in that behavior, do you know what I'm saying? It's as Oscar Wilde, everything in moderation, including moderation. We have to be able to engage in that thing, in the splurge when we want it. Otherwise, then it becomes this secret thing that then, you'll hide it and you do more and more and more and more, and it builds and it builds. And we know that equation. We know that what's going to happen if we leave them in charge to do that, because they'll continue to create it and go, like you said, there'll be this perfect world for them over here. But every time they smell it, go, that smells like burned cannabis. That's what it'll be. It'll be, we smelled combusted cannabis, or what, or the plant, the raw plant. Like you said, they'll be allowed to put terpenes in everything. There'll be cannabinoids in fucking everything. You'll get CBD in your plasters, for fuck's sake, but it won't even have a cannabis. Do you know what I mean? It'll be so benign, but everywhere cannabinoids. But there'll still be this heavy war on drugs on us. And they'll still paint it on the news of going, they made unlicensed, dangerous cannabis. Was these boys, they know it's different. It's different plant. It's different genetics. It's special. Look at the lab coats. Look at the hair nets. That makes it better than the stuff that old man grew in his back. Oh, that 70-year-old man with his arthritis that dared to not buy our products and grow his own plants. Children could have seen those plants. Do you know what I mean? That guy, it's like, what the fuck is going on? It's mental. It is, like you say, but the problem with me is I see that reality making more likelihood. That's the world we're going to live in a few years, 100%. I'll be sat here just talking to nobody, going, but the plant, and everyone will go, oh yeah, but you can buy it in this, you can get it in this, you can do this, you can do this. We all vape now, Simpa. You should just vape.
Yeah.
The pre-weighed satchels, no, you have to get your satchels. I prefer these satchels, no. And no, like you say, and it's no. If any of it is allowed to exist, you have to end at least what I say in my head is criminalization of me. And by extension, that means everybody else, because I'm going to be outrageous. I'm already quite outrageous with how I consume cannabis. But it should be. If then we can have pride events and festivals, if we can have meetups and we can have like charity muggers on the high street and we can just have all the obfuscation of everybody's ego, let the weed people have a go. Because at least we'll be entertaining. At least we'll be fun. At least it'll be a different thing we already let alcohol take over the high street 2 days a week. And look what that fucking does. Give us once a month. That's all I'm asking in Little Durham at the minute with the events we're trying to set up is once a month. We just want to congregate and show you people we're good people. We can all do our little thing. We can all connect. We can build better relationships, best business practice. We can learn to teach each other. We can teach each other and learn from each other about how to grow better cannabis, how to figure out, oh, well, that's sprayed with something. None of us should consume that. Let's warn each other. Do you know what I mean? All of these mechanisms by which we used to intrinsically have each other's back, it seems like they're being eroded because of things like the legalization of private prescription cannabis, because of things like the war on CBD. Like you said, that we're obfuscated into our little groups and we're so terrified of the little inch that we've got beneath our feet caving away that we're chipping away at the others because we're scared that they'll grab at us. Do you know? And they're just laughing from their platform above, going, hey, it's nearly done, lads. As soon as they're all killed off, we come in and we have the lot. And like you said, it's huge companies and it just becomes absorbed and it's gone. And
on that, mate, I really do need to kind of shoot off because A, you're talking of interesting stuff. B, I see you waving that spliff about, and it's about time I go and get my rolling mat.
See, that's going to be the thing in the future. I can see it in your, there's like in an alternate reality in my mind there, is the police knocking the door and like screwing through throwing bags of weed in the air and it's fine. And they're like, Sarge, rolling mat.
Oh. Yeah, let's hope that would obviously blatantly be a plant.
Yeah, just probably inside their vest. There's just several of them. They don't carry drugs anymore. It's just rolling mats. Yeah, these are raids. They're not real smokers. They're joker smokers. All right, yeah. I've enjoyed this. Appreciate you taking the time. I think, for all we had a few good sidebars and a good couple of laughs there. We did hopefully catch up the audience that have been keeping an eye on obviously the previous episodes that we've been recording. And I think you did really well to concisely sort of encapsulate what is happening in the timeline of events, and hopefully that's inspired some people to go look at previous episodes with yourself and to get a bit more informed. I am aware that it is quite heavy going, all of this, and I do again doff my cap to you for, you know, captaining this ship through some incredibly tumultuous waters. So well done, long may it continue, and look forward to having you back here soon with a whole new raft of corruptions and.
Sure, I think next time we don't even talk about CBD. We don't talk about novel foods. We talk about a little bit more cannabis in general, because I don't want to be viewed as a one-trick pony.
I don't mean to pigeonhole you. It's just that
maybe Kev can be correspondent on other aspects, like, you know.
Well, I will. Make sure next time that I have a good section of questions that
drop in and ask some really badly spoken German questions in your next interview.
I like it. Yeah, you can come in and be like, so like, what's the industry like over there? Do you have pugs, and do they interrupt your recordings?
Yeah, pugs, the pugs. Yes. The pugs. Terrible. Although let's hope that Coco's got her own little bit of a fan club from this. Bless her.
I'm sure that there'll be people listening to this, because I do get pictures and talking to people time to time. They just stick this on the telly in their living room. So imagine there's a pug somewhere hearing your pug pugging. So then that's going to start a chain somewhere that then somebody else will then their dog will go, and they're all just the dogs are using the technology to communicate. That's all they're doing.
It's like a pug paradox. The pug that hears the pug that hears the pug that hears the pug. I actually, I'm probably going to have nightmares about that now. Yeah, cheers, mate.
Just a fucking fractal of pugs barking into eternity. Well, on that imagery, I will. I'll let you go, Kev. Actually, could you let people know where you want to direct them? Where do you want them to check out your work?
Absolutely. If you want to see what I do, come and check me out either on the Hemp Hound website, which is www.hemphound.co.uk, or you can see me on LinkedIn, which is where I do a lot of my work, because apparently if you talk too much on Facebook, you don't really kind of last very long. You get banned and stuff. And by the way, coming over to LinkedIn is obviously a beautiful thing, because the weed porn is better. Trust me.
Okay. I have been considering where to post things, because, like I said, I got a 10-year ban on the Durham City Cannabis Club page the other day, which is quite unprecedented, and I'm not quite sure what I did other than set up an event the day before. So
10-year ban? No, you're being adjudicated on your actions in a former life as well, surely, sir.
Well, this is what I'm guessing. I mean, when I look at it, it says above, no issues with community guidance violations, health of page very good, and then at the bottom, you have been suspended for continual violations of community guidelines, and I'm like,
that's some kind of granny gift going, you've been a very bad boy.
Yeah. So fuck Facebook would be the last bullet point of this. I'll direct people to the links below. Hope to have you back here towards back end of the summer, if not into the autumn. Keep up the great work, brother, and we'll speak soon.
You too, dude. Take care. Bye, folks.
Peace and love. Bye. Well, there you go, folks. That was Cefyn Jones from Hemp Hound and Hemp Hound TV. Went through many of the notes there. Covered most of the topics. Actually, I say that there's quite a few other topics and bits of news there that I wanted to talk with them about, but it's difficult to have these conversations broken up over time with Cefyn to try and build this overall picture, because then we have to spend a certain amount of time, obviously, kind of reconstructing the timeline, as it were, as you saw in that, to be able to make sense of where the new information and everything kind of slots into, because obviously this is an ongoing sort of investigation, and a lot more revelations just keep coming up and are set to come up. So we will have him back in the hot seat before too long. Check out Cefyn on the links below. More news to come. I'm trying to figure out what other notes I've got here. No, all the other news we can cover with next week's guest. We've got an American journalist, writer, and amongst many other things sort of coming on next week. And yeah, I think the week after is going to be our guest from Germany. So looking forward to speaking with both of them. Yeah, if you made it all the way through this, guys, and you really enjoyed it, then please do give us a like, a share, a subscribe, a thumbs up, a rating, whatever it is you do on your platform. I really appreciate you doing so. Yeah, if you really enjoyed this, do check us out on patreon.com/Simpa Life, where for less than a cup of coffee a week, you can help keep the lights on. Check out simpalife.com for new information. Oh, that's one of the other things that I've just thought there. Seed Our Future are launching a new patients registrar, or registry rather. They are seeking to get a lot of people together to help create a legal fund for patients, because obviously they are being failed dramatically and massively by the current legislations or the well, how do you describe it? The implementation of the current regulations, legislation, and as we've just discussed, a lot of the kind of corruption of individuals behind it is leaving the actual end consumer. And well, cannabis consumers are kind of fucked, but the patients are also getting kind of caught up in the same problems arising from the legacy of, prohibition, propaganda, reefer madness, and all this bullshit that has to exist for them to say that no, this is medicine over here, but this over here, that's cannabis and skunk. So yeah, check that out. I'll include the link below to see our future and the registration documents for that, or link rather for that. Yeah, last thing to announce, I'm working with Tyler Green on a new project, which we should be publishing coming into next month, called Legacy Culture. It's going to be a new media online, sort of kind of like a magazine, kind of like a content resource, building into a larger platform. We're not just going to be covering sort of cannabis and drugs, but legacy cultures full stop across the UK and further afield. We are currently looking for individuals that are interested in sort of producing content for the project. So if you are interested, please do feel free to get in touch. Much appreciated. All right, I'm gonna let you go, guys. We'll be back next week with somebody. Yeah, you love it. I'll love it. It'll be great. All right, peace and love, folks.